Alright guys, so we're going to start now. The first game of Sheltered Pass. It's brought to you by me. How you going? Sean? Hardest year? We're just waiting on the players to accept and for the game to start. We've got a EVC or CVE game, depending on whose perspective you're looking at. So Ares is the red player, Carnage is the blue. So right up here, in the top left hand corner at the 11 o'clock position, we have Carnage as the blue Celt. Sorry, I'm just a bit tired, a bit fatigued. The bottom right hand corner, the 5 o'clock position, we have Ares, the red Egypt player. Both players are moving on to their hunts quite quickly. Ares is actually looking at getting an awful lot of wood to start with, whereas Carnage just opting for the safer all food sort of opening. Just looking at marking that wolf right next to it just to get that bit of extra food. Ares already throwing down this early barracks. Obviously he wants to try and get some pressure out. Carnage in the meanwhile just looks to be making this sort of macro play. Actually, in saying that, no, he's going to try and follow up with a quick barracks behind this as well, opting for storehouse barracks rather than I suppose it's the same sort of build, it's just a delayed barracks on the storehouse barracks opening really. So he's just marginally behind on the barracks. It's sort of 66% behind. He's got to have a little bit more resources to make up for it. For the moment, neither player really looking at getting any eco upgrades, obviously being at a very clash heavy opening. One will attack, one will defend. Maybe even both ways. We'll just have to see how it goes. So we've got Carnage just taking out a third hunt. They're all fairly nicely positioned all across the front of his base. And looks like Ares is coming up to scout. He's found one other hunt himself. Two other hunts himself as well. So both players having scouted out 3 hunt, 3 gold. Which is a nice position where you want to maybe look at scouting a bit more aggressively, where Ares is opting to do so. Carnage in the meantime is looking at scanning out the rest of his side of the map. Ares managing to get vision of the barracks and see the first spear come out. Carnage actually microing it away. Ares is going to see it anyway, but he's going to opt to just attack the storehouse for the time being. Carnage moving in. Ares has already got 3 spears up, so Carnage just doing a bit of a dance here, making sure he can defend as best as possible. Letting Ares move on to the spears before he actually engages. Really nice micro battle here from the two players. So seeing a lot of damage come out. So already 1-1. But Ares does have that original spear advantage. And it looks to be getting a bit hairy for Carnage here. So he's got to do a bit of damage with the villagers as well. He's already lost a couple of spears. He's already a spear down, basically half a spear down just because of the extra spear differential. And he hasn't got his scout in the mix. So, yeah, quite strong opening here from Ares. See another spear falling from Carnage. Another one's going to fall from Ares. Ares is just trying to micro it away. Carnage has finally got the spear advantage. Ares having to stream his across the map, of course. Carnage having picked off Ares' initial spears. Didn't actually get any of the villagers in the end. But forcing a lot of spears out from Carnage. Realistically, they are a little bit more expensive for Ares because he does have to opt for getting a little bit of gold. Hasn't actually done so yet, so he's going to have to slow down a little bit on that. Otherwise, he's going to Age 2 with no gold, which is pretty tough because you want to try and get the Tier 1 wood upgrade or something else a little bit early if you can. Pretty much right as you age. Generally, the consensus, I think, is to try and force out an Age 2 upgrade pretty much as soon as you age up. That is quite gold heavy, just because it puts you in quite a good position to macro in Age 2, you know, when you have rushed that second TC, because that's also quite standard as well. Carnage looking at sending his spears down, putting a bit of pressure on Ares, and then streaming everything back. It's really nice to see Ares using his scout here to chip away. It's not a lot of damage. I think it's like 1 or 2 damage, but at the end of the day, it all adds up. And particularly being an Egyptian, he can micro all day long with the range. So this is actually quite a tough matchup, I think, for Carnage here. He's got the 6 spears, but it's 5 spears in the scout, and they're being microed quite well. And he's having to split his workers back across. He's almost out of that first hunt. It's quite smart to deplete that one first, because this one's going to be much safer for him to take. And now that that's on bugger all, grand total of 33, he doesn't have to worry about that at all. He's just over this side. So both players still in age 1 at this point. But Carnage already got enough stone. Ares nearly enough. Ares is aged, Carnage is aged. See this fight down here. So Ares is losing an awful lot of spears. Carnage has been microed a little bit more, a little bit better. Getting the damage across to get everything down. Not hitting the scout because it doesn't actually hit as hard. So he's just ignored the scout, picked off as many spears as he possibly can. So he's got the spear advantage there. And basically, because he's fighting on home soil, it's much easier for him to replenish units and reinforce. He's got some longswords thrown into the mix, which is really nice units for taking the direct fights. And then he can peel off a small number of spears to actually harass Ares' base. He's actually opting for this town center. A little bit greedier than Ares is, who's got his basically stacked to try and deter Carnage's initial spears. But as Ares has to push out because he starts running out of resources, it's going to get easier and easier for Carnage to actually move in with the spears. Especially because the TC, because it's here, there's nothing else on the map he's defending with TCs. So it's sort of the short-term play, stacking them so tightly, whereas Carnage, he's relying on not getting raided super heavily to be able to, you know, bounce off this. And then in the late game, if he does get raided with, say, cavalry or something, he can afford to have farms here and here. So it's all about decision making sometimes. The Ares is let me make his priestess. Not sure what he's doing now. Looking maybe just to defend. So got another one coming out actually, and another barracks. Carnage in the meanwhile. Getting some houses, getting a barracks, got an archery range. He's actually moved his units in around the back side, so smart of Ares to actually keep these forces down here because he's going to be able to defend these last couple of villages, cleaning up the last deer there. Although it's going to be pretty costly because I think Carnage's army was a little bit bigger and he had more in the way of actual longswordsmen. I don't know. Actually, it was probably the spear count that won that out, to be honest. And then just better control of the longswordsmen to pick off longs while the spears fought spears. So anyway, he's going to snipe a house here. He's going to send some more forces in around from the top side. So getting these snipes is really big because this is going to force Ares to be housed if he can get this. So he's going to pick off these low units. I think he might be able to get the house. It's really nice healing there from Ares. So he actually kept that unit alive for another hit or two. Really nice use of the priestess, but he needs to be really careful. He needed it a little bit further up and a little bit further back then, you know. It's really hard to do it perfectly, but he's doing a fairly good job considering. And now he's throwing down another barracks, so that's 4 barracks out of the Egyptian, and we've got 2 barracks, 2 archery range out of Carnage. So really nice match so far between Ares and Carnage, but I think Carnage is slowly starting to bleed him down. We've got 35 workers for Ares, 39 for Carnage. There's quite a big score lead now. So in terms of upgrades, I think, yeah, so Carnage has got pickers, and he's got tier 1 gold and wood upgrades. Ares, meanwhile, he's got pickers. Oh no, they got the same. They have got the same. Oh no, Ares has just started queuing up pickaxe, so he's just behind on the upgrades at this point. Carnage, does he have a... Neither player seems to have an armory at this point just yet, but they're just sort of splitting their forces up. Ares looking to do a bit of pressure of his own, but Carnage is moving down here on his wood line, forcing a whole lot of villagers back, so that's going to be quite costly. That's a 9 villagers garrison, 9 villagers not gathering. And it didn't really cost him much, just a little bit of health on one of the units, I think. It's forced an awful lot of units. A much bigger force of Ares is coming down to follow, and this is really good for Carnage. He's not actually making use of this other force in here, where he really should be looking at trying to make something happen with it. Otherwise, keeping it down here and try and force a fight. Whereas Carnage, he's playing this so smart. He's just keeping his units out. He knows he's being chased by a much bigger force. So he's just prepping himself, just getting ready to go in with another one. He's biding his time. He's got plenty of units at home to defend any potential harass. He just maybe need to split up, get some units back here. Ares, they're both doing quite well in this position. They're dancing quite well. Neither player's really throwing anything away at this point. They're just looking at aging. Carnage has got his H3 on the way. Ares, I think he'd probably just be gathering the resources to do so. He really needs to get some stone though, whereas Carnage, he's already on it. So Carnage coming in behind, looking at wiping out this hunt just as it's being taken. It's really nice. Ares is unmicroed units. Oh no, here we go. They're coming in now, but it's too little too late. It's going to force him back off that just for that bit longer, just as he's running out of food at home. So this is going to be quite tough for Ares because he's actually got no gatherers on his food. Only for a couple of units costed for Carnage, who's snuck in a whole bunch of units round again. Really scary. He's going to try and get the gold or the stone here. Really shut Ares down, but Ares in the meanwhile is running some troops around the top. And there's another force down here to try and run maybe through the front. Carnage wrapping some more units around. He knows Ares is going to try and reposition here, so he's come back in. This is genius. This is genius play. In the meanwhile, up on the top side, Ares has got some genius play of his own. He's forced a garrison of Carnages. He's denied his houses there. Carnage moving in on Ares' base, and Ares putting in the work of his own, harassing Carnage's woodline, denying a house. We see an awful lot of units here being microed everywhere of Ares being forced back out onto the woodline. It's really going to hurt Ares though, but he's doing well to keep up. He's got H3 himself. He's got Axeman Champion queued up. Carnage in the meanwhile, he's starting to get some cavalry. He's got H3, so he's got his cavalry of his own coming out. Being the Egyptian player that opened with barracks, you don't really get a chance to deviate until the late game to get some cavalry of your own as well. So it is a bit like playing Norse. I mean, a bit like playing Celt yourself. So we see Ares getting his third town center. Carnage is a fair bit more established, nearly built now. Just running units across the map, picking some stuff off Ares, who's securing some reasonable vision. He's got units over here. He's got the scout, got the watchtower, so he can actually stack up and maybe force a good fight here. But Carnage is pretty notorious for having some really good fighting mechanics. So we'll just have to see how this one goes. Although, ooh, that's going to be really costly for Carnage, losing 3 or 4 long swordsmen basically for nothing there, and Ares' force who are just going to be able to heal up. Carnage having to pull back. Maybe it's a ploy to just free up some supply for some other units, but we'll just have to see how that goes, because Ares, he's not too far down in supply, only 2 down, but he's only got 61 workers versus 66 to Carnage, who's seems to be a little bit faster in terms of upgrades and getting the workers out. Ares actually hasn't taken his Age 3 upgrades yet on his storehouses, whereas Carnage has, so that could come in quite costly. Carnage also has an armory on the way. Armory down, upgrades on the way. The Egyptian player Ares, no upgrades for him just yet, which is going to be quite costly. I think if Carnage manages to time this right, he can move in basically a whole tier of army upgrades right if he plays this smart and throws down another armory as well, which I think he might look at doing. Oh, he's got a second one there already, but I don't think he's got enough just yet. Actually, spend. Oh, he might do. Here we go. Yeah, he's queuing it up. So he's got Temper and Scale Mail on the way. Probably just had to decide what was the best upgrade for the time being, but he's got an awful lot of slingers, so it's probably a really smart decision at this point. He's slightly ahead on supply, but it's not a lot. But look, we're having a big engagement right here. Ares forces all balled up in a massive death ball. Carnage's slingers all having to put in the work here. Just wow, this is a really interesting fight here. There's bloody long swordsmen going down everywhere for both players. Awful lot of healing for both players. The cavalry, they're just slowly chipping away at more axemen. Those are pretty strong against, I'd say, because not really a strong counter in either of them. But yeah, Carnage backing off actually. He's a little bit down in supply. I think having the TC there just sort of counteracted the cavalry, and having just the buildings and shit in the way. I think that sort of, yeah, went Ares' way now. Carnage having to fall back right now, but he's looking at taking the middle. He's got units posted all around. He's taking the quicker wall, so Ares is throwing down the walls of his own though. Not too far behind, and he's got some extra towers to help him defend, so really nice play from Ares here. Not doing too badly against the more experienced player. Carnage has got an awful lot of upgrades queued. Ares really only getting his first armory upgrade. Carnage, he's taking his first two, he's getting his second two, so that's all of his tier 1, like I said, so he's going to have them all, right as Ares only has one tier 1 upgrade at this stage, so that's going to be a really strong position to be in, and if he takes a good fight or two, this can be it for Ares, I think, who's split his forces up, and it's not worked out too well for him, because Carnage has got a much bigger force here, and he's killing units left, right, and center, so Ares' units have to sneak over there, keep his villagers out of the way, and he's having to wrap around, but this time if Carnage isn't careful, he can be the one caught out here with the big sandwich here. Oh no, he's microed straight through it. Some pretty low slingers, he needs to keep these alive. Running them out as best as he can. So the slingers, they get out, they're just as quick as the axemen, so they do manage to get out at that stage. Ares just slipping behind in terms of the macro and upgrades, I think, so that's where the difference is coming in, because he's actually not taking terribly bad fights at the moment, so Carnage opting for even more horsemen. They're good against cavalry, but the extra speed means that obviously you can raid and dive your enemy's backline a little bit better and take out high value targets. So he's really opting to rely on them. Losing a couple more slingers as Ares' army just chases him around the map. Ares, I don't know what he's doing over here, maybe just scouting out the map, I'd say. Carnage just amassed another force. Got some bowmen, got a couple slingers, got some horsemen, got a long swordsman. So fairly mixed, fairly transitional comp from Carnage coming out right now, because he wants to really be able to deal with his opponent's infantry, and he's gonna have to be a bit careful though, because Ares has an awfully high number of slingers. Jesus Christ, 44 slingers, that's a lot. And Carnage, he's got 20 bowmen, but if he runs straight into this, it could be all over. So that's, I suppose, what the horseman buff is for. And they're going to be good for tanking tanking tower shots, considering the cavalry have about three or four times the damage, health of the infantry and range units. So Carnage, though, his multitasking is going to come in handy here. He's moving into the backside. Ares hasn't been able to take that hunt, so Carnage, he's economically, both players, they've banked a couple of resources and they're low on a couple of resources, so they sort of need to round out their economies. They've been doing well to beat down on each other, I think. Carnage making use of these low health slingers to actually pick off some last units from Ares, forcing slingers to actually come down this side. The forces of Ares, the rest of them are just up here for the time being, but there's a handful of slingers here in a little battle, and Carnage doing what he can to kill them off, get a couple more workers, and then maybe look at a big push. So he's actually finishing off with a tier 2 upgrade to defend against the longswordsman, and maybe a cavalry transition if it's going to come from Ares, because he's got 3 stables now. So I'll have to have a look and see if there's going to be any cavalry coming out. There's been a fortress come out, so there's been rams from Carnage. He's going to look at maybe diving the corners of the map with his rams. Ares hasn't really finished solidifying off all these areas. Carnage could probably do a better job as well of his, so that's all exposed. So both players just sitting back for now, macroing up. But Carnage has got a little bit of a harass here while he's queued up an awful lot of army upgrades. Ares has also done the same though, but I think he's only got the 1 armory, which is gonna hurt him, whereas Carnage has got 2. So that little bit of harass there is just picking up another couple of villages. So we've got 90 villages from Carnage versus 85 from Ares, so he's managed to have a small worker lead most of the game, if not all of it. So that's really been a big favour for him, because even though he hasn't had favourable fights, he's managed to macro up better behind it. So that's really what's keeping him ahead on top of these economic upgrades, and I'd say being a little bit more active in terms of harassing his opponent's base. Carnage is pretty well known for being quite good with that. So he's just forcing his opponent back here off the storehouse. Well, that's not too good. He really could have microed in then, so he's looking at spreading out as best as he can to take a good fight here, and be careful not to lose too many of the archers to the range units. I mean, archers and other range units from the war elephants. Other range units, what am I talking about? I suppose his druids, and he hasn't got any slingers anymore. But anyway, he's picked off a lot of the elephants, and the third one's probably going to go down here without taking out too much. So the text from Carnage coming in real handy. He's slowly being forced back though, and he's lost most of his front line, so this camel's going to come in handy as well. So more cavalry coming out from Carnage, which he really needs, but it needs to be careful not to throw away. These slingers, ooh. Putting in the work down here though. He's denying another storehouse, Carnage. He's always active with his harass, and the rams are getting ready just to go in. So yeah, the rams are on the way in. You see a whole bunch of cavalry. And a whole bunch of... Thank you. A whole bunch of bowmen. A couple of them are starting to fall though. There's an awful lot of slingers again. Ares has had a really, really high slinging count most of the game. Been good. And he's chipping away at a villager, but he's got to back out now. His forces are slowly being whittled down by Carnage, who's able to read Max so much better, considering his base is right on this doorstep, and I think he's actually got the production facility advantage by now. He's actually punched a hole through Ares' wall, who's actually going to have to divert something there in the meantime as well, so he's not really able to reinforce this fight while he's got units. Carnage's got units here denying a gold mine. He's got rams running down here, so Ares, it's a very precarious position. He's losing units up the middle of the map. He's losing a lot of units. Goodbye. Goodbye, priestess. So he's denied a gold mine as well. Ares forced to resort to... Well, he's not gathering any gold at this stage. He's forced to rely on his market at this stage, and these three rams, they're putting in a lot of work. I don't think Ares actually realizes yet. Actually, now he does. So he's lost a whole bunch of farms. And he's nearly lost the stables as well. So Carnage has really put in some good pressure here, and he's using the small number of archers here just to drive Ares off this gold mine. He's forcing up his fortress. He's got enough to defend this. He's going to be able to hold off this, I think. He's got these units here just to stop any aggression from behind. And some well-microed cavalry are going to pick off all the infantry and the slingers here. He's taken the golden age. Ares can't quite afford to. Hasn't got quite the food or the gold to do so. Or the stone. So Ares, he's got a big wood bank. Bigger than Carnage's even. But he just doesn't have enough of the other resources to really be able to do much at the moment. And Carnage, Jesus Christ, that's an awful lot of cavalry. We've got 89 to 90 villagers in favour of Carnage. And he's got a lot of horsemen inside of Ares' base right now. He's going to maybe lose this fortress because he doesn't have enough here. Doesn't have any cavalry up the middle. But he's running the rest of his round Ares' base. So quite a hairy position for both players. He's going to dive straight onto Ares' market line while running his units back as much as he can in the middle. Ares Camel's getting some nice picks, killing all the druids, killing a lot of the ranged units. He's got a war elephant behind us, but in the meantime, Carnage is driving away an awful lot of villagers off Ares' wood line. He's having to spend an awful lot of that wood he's had banked up most of the game, and he's lost most of his caravans now. Carnage's horsemen are doing an awful lot of work down here in the bottom. They're picking off a lot of villages, a lot of caravans. Meanwhile, over at the top side, we've got... Ooh, Carnage is defending really well here. He's pulled back straight onto his fortress and managed to hold. He's getting down a war elephant that he's managed to snare with some horsemen, and he manages to get it in the end. But most of the range ball ends up surviving in the end. It's really nice control by Carnage. Ares actually sneaking in some villagers to build some watch posts. He knows, yeah. So he knows what's going on. But yeah, anyway, down here on the bottom side, we've got all these horsemen by Carnage. Done a real good job, really harassing that market line. Ares has had to replenish an awful lot of caravans right now. Carnage has lost a lot of the horsemen up here at the top side. Carnage has got a lot of these bowmen putting in the work. Killing off a lot of camels, which is a bit funny to see, but I mean, he's got the horsemen in front of tanks, so they are getting off free hits essentially. So anyway, around here, around the back of Carnage's base, sneaky gold mine from Ares. He's also got a half-finished watchtower, but I think Carnage Sneaking some units down himself just to have a look. See if that wall's been finished. Going to try and deny this fortress himself. Real interesting back and forth game. Carnage has really been ahead just because of techs, I think. Ares is just running some units back right now. I mean, Carnage is running his units back right now. Ares is sort of forced to reposition there. But I think he's going to go for a more forward fortress now. Yeah, he is. So he's actually caught Carnage in a good spot right now, because Carnage can't really back up too far. He's only got a couple of cavalry down there too. So all these units are going to go down. Carnage is running some Carpentoms and some horsemen around the side. He's found this sneaky little expansion from Ares and is picking off the villagers. Still hasn't finished off that watchtower. He's managed to bust through again with some rams. So Carnage's multi-pronged aggression obviously starting to really show here again. Gee, it's been a real back and forth game inside Ares half the map, I think. Ares is doing well to defend. He's sniping off his last little couple of units, but he's all the way across the other side of the map. This is really bad positioning for him, so to speak. He does have some camels here to defend, but the Carps, if they get well positioned or get too far away, and I think they are a little bit faster. Oh no, they are just slower, sorry. So Microbe will just have to see how we go here. Getting off some good snipes, Carnage. He's killing a lot of the camels and he's picked a good fight around the storehouse. In the meantime, he's got a ram getting killed, taking a town center down about half health of Ares, which is really nice harass from him, really nice response from Ares, who in the meantime has got some siege workshops up inside Ares Carnage base. Gee, this game is getting real interesting, guys. So got Carnage backing off here over the side. Got some more cavalry there. Doesn't actually know. Oh, person doesn't have any idea. So this will get real interesting. He's picking off some more units. Carnage down here on this side. He's sniping more and more. Ares forced to get chariot archers and slingers again. So real good with the Carpentoms, forcing out 2 different units from Ares in order to compensate, because the Camel Riders just aren't able to do enough against the Microed Carps. So in the meantime, Ares, he's finished off the first workshop. He's got 1 siege tower coming out. He's got a second one about to come out. So meanwhile, over here on the top side, Carnage is moving in. He wants to try and take this fortress. He's got a whole bunch of cavalry, which is really nice. Next best thing behind siege for being able to take out the static defense, I'd say. He's able to move in here, take out the gold mine, moved all the way down here, pull Ares all the way across the map as best as he can. I'm not sure if he actually sees this just yet. Yeah, now he does. So, oh yeah, here we go. So Ares with a bit of a last ditch attempt to try and snipe this fortress, but Carnage has responded in due time. He's managed to kill the first siege tower, and he's going to kill the second, and I think he's going to figure out where they're all coming from. So he's come down at the bottom side. Got some units parked here as well. Try and stop Ares from getting anything out, but at the same time, is that a bit too risky? Carnage still hasn't quite seen the third siege workshop go out. If I was Ares, though, I probably would have opted for a stables or something, just to try and defend the towers. But at the same time, three of them coming out at once is really hard to deal with, and it's going to require Carnage to keep units back at home. So, in either way, he's going to be able to put an awful lot of pressure down, and Carnage in the meantime is managing to drag Ares' army all around his own base while he's sniping all amounts of units. So he's getting small numbers of villagers, small numbers of caravans, slightly better trades against Ares' army. But in the meantime, Ares is going to get discovered here, just as he's about to move out. Ooh, and that's GG for game 1, guys. Oops, sorry guys, didn't realize I was still muted. So, anyway, to start with, we've got Ares in the south side, the blue Celts player. Carnage in the north side, the red Persian player. So, both players looking to try and eke out some extra wood with their openings, I think. Ares getting a barracks. Carnage at this stage, not too sure. Getting a barracks himself, so both players taking early barracks. Ares actually scouting out the water. A little bit of a slow start to this one, so Ares getting an early spear. Carnage. We'll just have to see. Other player really opting for water just yet. Ares getting on his wood line. Carnage just about to on his own base. Barbaro coming down straight away because he knows he wants to defend this. There's a spear coming out straight away from the Celt player. No aid tent just yet from Carnage. Ares pumping out a couple of spears. 2, 3. There's this Barbaro there to defend and a whole bunch of villagers. Aid tent's been queued up now. Carnage just making sure that Ares can't wrap around the side here. Good micro from Carnage, making sure Ares can't engage. Despite the unit disadvantage. I'm just going to micro back that Barbaro, but it's alright. He's actually got aid 10 here, so the unit count should... if we can save this one, that is. Can he do it? Can he do it? Oh, he's getting really low to be able to save this. Ares is putting in the work. This is intense. He's got a Barbaro, but he's losing spears. He's got another Barbaro, but he's going to lose even more spears now that there's villagers attacking another. So things might tip towards Carnage's favor here. But there's more Barbaro than there is spears, so this is going to get a bit drastic for Ares, I think. Still running more spears across, but he's going to have to back off. Queued up an awful lot of spears, but he's only got the one barracks. Carnage. He's getting more houses. So is Ares. Both players just having a bit of a standoff at this stage. 4 Barbaro, 3 spears, 4 spears. Scout running just around on the south side. Scouts going to run into one another. I think these guys are just making sure one another aren't going water on this map, because it is quite crucial to know, because if you can take it off your opponent or go for a really hard land attack, it can really change the outcome of the game. So we've got 5 spears, 5 Barbaro, forcing back a whole bunch of villages of Carnages, but I think he's just going to force them over to go and gather from that hunt. In the meantime, 7 spears, 5 Barbaro, Carnage, not sure what he's opting for at the moment. TC, I'd say he's got 7 villages out on the stone. Ares in the meantime, he's also got 7 out on the stone, so really trying to push out that second TC first before opting to harass the water. Ares is just aged, Carnage is about 3/4 done. He's doing well to micro here around Carnage's Barbaro. Maybe try and force a couple of villagers back. He's managed to do it. He's forced them back, which is really smart. Carnage losing that gathering time, but possibly, yeah, he's picked off 1 spear in response. So fairly even trade, I'd say. Maybe even slightly Carnage favoured there. Picked off another spear though, so Ares really has to make this work now, otherwise he's really throwing these spears away, and that's tough too with the aid tent. Persian player just microing his stuff back around the other side of the storehouse. Ares is down to 5 spears. There's 7 Barbaro now, so bit of an advantage for Ares, for Carnage, who's picked off Ares Scout now, and another spearman. But there's a long swordsman coming out for Ares. So we've also seen an early pickaxe, and he's got the early tier 1 wood upgrade. Meanwhile, Carnage has got early tier 1 wood, getting Picker's Gloves now as well to reinforce, because if he does get forced back off this, he's going to need to be able to get some quick food to be able to secure anything on the map, because it looks like Ares is quite close to the waterline there. He's closer than Carnage is too, so it's going to be much easier for him to get there, I think. He's got this forward second TC. Carnage is quite conservatively placed in his main base, just tucked behind that first town center of his. Ares is right over here at this gold mine that's right near the waterline. So really greedy from Ares, and it might work in his favor. So see him scouting out with long swordsman. He's lost that scout, but couple spearmen, couple long swordsmen for him. Just making sure Carnage hasn't got a dock yet. He hasn't, so Ares is safe to get his own. That dock might really come in handy, but I think Carnage is going to scout and try and see if Ares is doing it. I think he knows what's coming up, so yeah, he's sending a scout down because he's going to try and... I think he's figured out that his opponent's going to try and secure the water here, so he's going to make something happen. Ares is just parked up here, make sure everything's okay. Got 35 villagers for Carnage, 30 for Ares, so despite getting the all the early pressure, he's actually fallen behind in his villager count. But he's opted for some slingers, getting a Sacred Grove as well, maybe get some druids. Getting a swan ship just to make sure he's secured the water first before anything else, which is a bit strange because he knows his opponent doesn't actually have a dock yet, but it's, I suppose, no one ever lost from being too careful, so he's... Carnage in the meanwhile has some Asabara around the backside of Ares' base. He's going to try and have a look and see if he's expanded up for any wood, and then maybe try and hit directly in behind his base, hit his wood line. Ares in the meanwhile doesn't really have any idea just yet, although he's going to see them come in now, so he's having to pull those workers back. Ares doing well to secure the waterline. He hasn't actually got any fishing boats yet, which is a bit tough. Carnage in the meanwhile, he's got age 3, he's got double immortal camp, he's looking to really expand out here. He's nearly got enough to actually get his third TC, so this is really going to be big for him right now. He's going to be able to step his economy up from here on out, so he really expanded up into the back of the map, whereas Ares is sort of down the front near the waterline, and funnily enough Ares hasn't yet actually got any fishing boats, so that's not necessarily going to be the best for him, I think. Carnage, he's got this forward third TC, just near this gold mine, just try and help secure this front of his base. It's going to be real hard to try and break into Carnage's base and even scout these immortals. Ares is going to have no idea that they're on the way. The Ares in the meanwhile, he's still got that water secured. He's going to pick off a couple of, well, take a whole lot of health off Carnage's cavalry, who's going to have to park those near a storehouse to get them healed up in the meantime. Probably going to run them around again just to get one last glance at the map. Just try and deny something. And I think he's done it as well. There's a villager just coming out. Oh, he's just missed it. But I think Ares has noticed and backed out his villager. So, see a watched host coming down because Ares he wants to know what's going on over here. He knows Carnage has been running cavalry around here. He wants to know if they're going to be doing it again. But he might just have missed these ones. They're coming through for a round 2. Although there's some slingers waiting here. They're not the best units to be able to fight Asabara. But there is one spear. Carnage sort of forced to keep that low one out for the time being. In the meantime, Ares has got a fishing ship. He could do with a couple more, maybe even take a second dock. So just have to see what happens for the time being. There's Armory coming out for Carnage. A whole bunch of Immortals coming out for Carnage. Age 3 coming out for Ares. So Carnage, about half an age ahead really in terms of his tech and stuff. But in terms of his actual army population, he's down. And then in his workers population, he's up by 11 again. So it's an interesting one. He actually doesn't have that fishing ship though, so he is only really 10 workers ahead rather than 11. So right now, see Ares throwing up another barracks, a whole bunch of houses. He's got his own armory coming up. Carnage, he's already queued up his barbed arrows upgrade, massing up a whole bunch of Immortals at this point. Really, really scary army there. So, still, another couple of fishing ships actually coming out for Ares, who's just patrolling, just making sure he's got the water here, and he definitely has it secured. You know, Carnage opting for the market line a little bit earlier than Ares, so this is really going to come to favour his economy, considering he's already up in workers, and he's got more he's got more armor re-upgrades on the way. Ares eco upgrades even are a little bit slow. There's Carnage. Yeah, his storehouse upgrades are pretty much neck and neck, but Ares is only just getting his nets behind another fishing boat, so he's not really making the best use of his fishing boats just yet. But economically, overall, he's not too far behind. Oh, actually, in saying that, third TC actually has really started to open the gap up, and the worker leads actually really opened up. So Ares is starting to slip there, and he really needs to start making a bit more happen with these fishing ships. Try and throw up a second dock behind this TC as well, and as well as throw up his market line, because Carnage is just starting to get his. Defending it with his houses, and he might get some walls as well in front of that. Ares is quite a big force here, but is losing his watchtower. He knows that his opponent's probably going to have those villages there, so yeah, he does. So a bit of information there for Ares, who's running some workers, some units around up here, some woads. Try and pick off the market, try and pick off some caravans. Meanwhile, down here in the middle of the map, we've got a big fight being taken here. All these Immortals in their ranged mode, doing an awful lot of damage to the infantry. They're going to come in, keep creeping forward. A couple of them in melee mode, a couple of them in range mode, doing an awful lot of damage to Ares' force. They're quite cheap, but still quite strong compared to like the tier 1 infantry units. They're basically slightly stronger than most of the other infantry, and they're basically like a more expensive throwing axeman that can convert to a melee mode as well. So they're sort of this weird hybrid between a throwing axeman and like a hoplite class unit. Yeah, it looks like Carnage is putting in the work now. He's forcing Ares back on multiple parts of the map, and he's throwing down a fortress here. Meanwhile, over in the top side, he's managed to defend everything here, and he's getting another Immortal camp just to help defend up there in particular. And these Immortals forcing a big garrison here from Ares. The fortress in the meantime, I don't know if Carnage is still going to try and go for that quite so deeply, knowing that Ares' army is basically up right next to it. So Carnage in the meantime, he's going to try and take this TC, I think. He's picking all the workers, and he's going for the TC. Ares is going to have to do a lot of worker micro here and send some forces over. But if he sends too many over, and I think he's going to send all of them over, he'll get himself out of position here, because Carnage is just throwing down a whole bunch of healing storehouses. Got the fortress there. It's going to be really, really easy for Carnage to fall back here and make a lot of work happen, because he's got this TC of Ares, so Ares back on 2 TC, Carnage is on 3. Carnage queuing up a whole bunch of armory upgrades as well, trying to maintain his advantage on that, which he made great use of last game. He's losing a couple of immortals, but I think it's going to be worth it. Thank you for that. So we've got a deceased town center being rising like a phoenix from the ashes. A whole bunch of immortals here, wrapping around to try and deny it again, because Carnage knows Ares is going to want to try and put one here so he can actually secure a market line here. Otherwise he's going to be forced to do it at the bottom side, in which case Carnage in the late game can use ships to try and damage it. And usually there's a good siege option. So he's forced to cancel this TC, but has he managed to pull Carnage's army down far enough? Because there's 42 immortals versus a huge force, a huge mixed force from Ares, so this could be quite hairy here. Ares has actually started to really take the whole waterline as well, so the patch of berries that's up there, the gold's important, but the patch of berries that's up there definitely isn't anymore, so Carnage forced to really move his army all the way to the back of Ares' base to make the best use of it as he can, and he's trying to split it up as well. Try and get a good death ball here, market them a lot better, and then splits them off here, get some villager kills, while over here on the top side he's actually picking up a whole bunch of houses of Ares. And he's got his forward siege workshops, he's got his forward fortress, he's got his Maginot wall of Maginot, how do you say it? I don't know. Wall of storehouses here just to basically fall back to. That's an awful lot of healing, that's like having 6 priests there. Really, really cool tech to be making use of. He's lost an awful lot of these immortals. He's down at only 8 from the 42 that were there. He's going to lose the rest of them as well. But in the meantime, he's taking out Ares' second TC just as he's taken his third again. He's just outside of the range of the Swan ship, so bad luck to Ares on that one. So in terms of the eco techs, Carnage is just pumping them out. In terms of the armory techs, he's just pumping them out. Ares is doing a little bit the same, a little bit behind on them though. And he really, could do with maybe another armory in this position. Has he actually got his Celt building for his infantry? I don't think he has. So anyway, meanwhile over here on the top side, Carnage again, he's got a high amount of immortals, 23 this time. He's going to try and take this TC again, kill a whole bunch of workers. So we've got 100 workers from Carnage versus 68 from Ares. The water isn't mattering, I don't think. I mean, he's got 10, 12 ships, 24, but it's just not enough. And in the meantime, the battering rams are coming down here. He's going to lay waste to this TC. Over in the top side, he's going to get this one real low, I think. He might not get it in the end, but he's going to get it low at least. And down here on the bottom side, these rams are... This double siege workshop comp is really laying waste, because these rams are just coming in 2 by 2, and Ares is throwing in the tower now. GG. Actually, I'll just be 1 sec, guys. I'll have a quick look at the stats. So, yeah, we see Carnage's continual harass. Yeah, just putting in the work there. Anyway, thanks guys. I'm just gonna get the next one all scheduled. Ooh, Eerie could do it again. Yeah, body. Oh, Eerie. I'll have to figure out who you can play. Give me a sec. Back to the drawing board. Fuck. What's the time gonna be in CEST in 20 minutes?
me close the door. Well, I can do whatever you want. I can do whatever you want. Yeah, it's fine. We can. Who's going? Who's going to cast? No, just sleep. Just sleep, man. Come on. Too much pressure. Too much pressure. I mean, okay. Anytime, man. Ares versus Warlock. It's going to be fun, man. Get your popcorn ready. You have a question here. Um, I have a question here. What about if I spectate the game? Because my graphics are better. Um, the thing is, I don't know how how things work here. Yeah, yeah. Okay, never mind. It's fine, it's fine. Let's just start, man.
Alright guys, we are off. I've got my co-caster here with me, Greeky. And today, we're going to be bringing you a game between Ares and Warlock. Oops. So first map. I'll fix the scores up as well, sorry. Really should have done this earlier. Sorry guys. Just be one sec. Alright, so first map, we'll do Sheltered. We got Warlock and Ares to kick off their best of 3.
What do you think? Who's going to win?
I think Warlock would probably be the favoured player in this matchup. Not to rule out Ares, because he was pretty strong against Carnage. Like, he went down in both games, but not without a good fight. So, be interesting to see how this one actually pans out in the end. So to start off with, we've got in the bottom corner we've got the Norse red Norse player Warlock, and in the top left corner we've got Ares as a blue Celt. Is there anything you want to say about the match, Greeky?
Yeah, I think Warlock is very good at Norse, and I think he has an advantage versus raids versus spearmen because they don't have cap as skills. So
Yeah,
if you micro them, yeah, if you micro them well, he will be ahead if you utilize the cap.
Oh, for sure, for sure. They're much quicker than any infantry, even the Celt spears, or well, Celt infantry. So as long as he utilizes that rating, I think he's going to have a big advantage with that as well.
If he misses this opportunity, he might be in a trouble because I think third age kills pretty strong, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's certainly true. Third Age Celts are really strong. They've got their bowmen are really nice
Yeah,
for just general play. Compared to most other bowmen, they don't really rely on their bonus. They rely more on their flat damage.
yeah. They are more flexible, I would say,
Yeah,
against anything.
so you've got a barracks coming out here for Warlock behind Ares in this case. But Ares, I think he's just maybe just going to look at defending to begin with, funnily enough.
You should be an aggressor after scouting this. I mean, it's scout, so
Yeah, well that's true. Celts really has the fastest spear time, followed probably by Babylonian. So really they should be the ones to try and push to be the aggressor, because Norse is probably third in that race, unless they really try and push it out with their scout.
yeah, double scout does hurt.
Yeah, well that's it. You can use your melee scout to just go straight on the barracks as soon as you want, and then pull your villagers onto it while keeping scouting with your range scout. And the bonus of having a range scout is, yeah, it's much easier to chip away if you actually catch the spears. Although Ares is, yeah, sending them down the far side.
Yeah, I see that. Although he's not making more humans, so I think he can't really do much here.
Yeah, three's not really enough if your opponent also gets three. You really probably need to go up to 5 or 6. Sometimes like even 10.
Yeah, he could be very dangerous.
Well, that's it. He's going to have to micro his units really well here. At the same time, Walker's going to have to do the same. And he's starting to back him up, I think. Oh no, he's stopped again. Oh no, there we go. He's getting some more. Not really consistent with them.
Yeah, Ares did micro budget, but Warlock is not making villages.
Yeah, that's going to hurt Warlock a bit. His food gatherers are only 4. And yeah, they're on berries, so can't really afford to do both. So Ares is he sort of likes to micro and think about what he does on the fly, I think, rather than go in with a I'm going to produce spears and then stop sort of mentality.
Yeah, he's going aggressive, like what he should be doing. So he's still great at doing it, even though he's losing so much. But still a great deal because it's like the normal one.
Well, that's it. He's forced his opponent off the hunt, and he's getting the quickest stone transition, so he's put himself in a good spot for Age 2, I think, despite losing a lot of spears for it. And he's got the eco upgrade, and Warlock's not building anything at the moment.
I
So
think he thinks that he's in H2 Warlock. So
yeah, that must have been it. He must have thought he already had H2 queued.
yeah, he's been distracted a lot.
Yeah, it's been a good pressure game from Ares, who's managed to seize the opportunity and come ahead in terms of score. So he's actually pulled ahead in the villager count too, which is good for him.
Because he stopped making villages.
Yeah, he's distracted Warlock really well so far with the early Celt infantry, and he's got the long swordsman in the mix, so that's going to be good for finishing off the spearmen.
If Ares went ham and had a lot more long swordsmen, could be in a lot of trouble.
Hey, Greeky, is there a way you could turn your mic up by any chance? I've got you maxed out pretty much on my end.
Well, I think this is the max, so we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, it's a bit hard sometimes trying to get things right. Like I had the worst white noise last week, like a big whooshing sound the whole game.
I mean, do you hear me correct?
I hear you fine. It's just that Eerie messaged me to say that you're a bit quiet.
Maybe on stream.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably just not being picked up as well for some reason. He's going to deny the vision with that, but He needs to back out quick. Because yeah, I mean, if you're not up, unless your opponent's Persian, the only thing you get out of that is denying vision, and maybe clearing a path for you to go in easier next time. And yeah, Ares is ahead on that second town center, so he's already got that slight advantage. He's really done well to distract Warlock.
Yeah.
And he's getting a range as well, and I mean, the Slingers, they're going to be nice against the throwing Axemen, I suppose, just because they can deal the damage from afar as well. You don't want to get too many of them, obviously. He's probably going to want to rely on the long swordsman, but I think it's always good just to pepper a few into your composition, even before your opponent's able to get a whole lot of range themselves. So he's denying another storehouse, and this one is going to be a little bit more meaningful, because he's still got some more food he could have got out of that Warlock. He's being forced back to the berries again. But he's taken the stables now.
Yeah, because we denied.
Yeah, that's very true. He's going to have to pull away from it to actually fight.
Yeah. Range from throwing Axemen.
Yeah. That's it. And I suppose that's why the slingers can be quite useful, even though, you know, if he was playing a bowman civ, they'd be much stronger against a throwing axeman. Even having slingers is just nice. Considering he's Celt and he can't actually use any cavalry until age 3. And he might not want to tech straight there. But this might not be a good fight for him to take. He's managing to flee, and over on the top side he might take this barracks out. So he's having to pull a lot of workers, Warlock, to actually try and keep that alive.
Yeah. He doesn't have much military to defend on both sides.
No, exactly. If Ares runs his forces back in, he can really make use of that, but it looks like he's backing off and Warlock's able to defend it. I think you're right there. He might have really been best off if he had kept the pressure up, because Warlock was able to just combine his army then and defend the barracks.
Yeah. If he had the other side military pushed him in the wood line.
Yeah, exactly. If he had to sort of either wrap around or even just run directly through, I think he could have kept Warlock even busier.
Yeah, maybe even flank.
That's it. Yeah, come right around, hit right through, or even head all the long way around. There's a lot of options on Sheltered Pass, even though the pass itself is quite choked. Once you make it through the other side, you just, you know, the more you seem to split up your army, the better off you tend to be. We've got some more.
His raids.
Yeah, he's going to utilize his raids now, which will be nice. Might finally be able to lift the pressure off and swing things back in his favor then.
Yeah, he's pressure's so caged.
Yeah, Ares is doing well to lock down the middle of the map now, but he's got 5, and that's enough to really try and force a couple of pullbacks. Which he's going to do.
Yeah, he should do more of that.
Yeah, he forced 15 villages back then for
Yeah.
a low raider. Like, that's a really good trade. But in the meantime, Ares is obviously going to move in because he knows he hasn't got the cavalry really to try and snipe any of his ranged.
He can flank with the raiders on the other side, but the thing is they are only 4, so
That's it.
they can't do much.
Yeah, it's not really enough to try and go for the flank, I think, so he's
Yeah.
probably going to try and pick something off, but well positioned spears here.
Is going to have an armor advantage, so
Ah, yep, yep. Ares is going to get temper out. Warlock's really only just getting conditioning out. Has Ares actually got that? Yeah, Ares has already got conditioning, so he's definitely up in armory upgrades.
I
Or
mean
military upgrades.
yeah.
Oh, the
I
raid.
can easily go, yeah, I can easily predict that Warlock won't have his armor upgrades fairly soon. I mean he's top 8 something. So
Sorry?
he's what's it called, man? His pop, military pop. I forgot.
Yeah, he needs to get some houses up. And oh, he's losing a lot right now. Those slingers are really putting in the work.
Actually, now he's making an armor upgrade.
Yeah, he's got his own armory. Ares, yeah, they're both on one armory each. Ares has got that earlier upgrade though. Picking off the scout finally. So both players are sort of just shaping up. Can they? They can't actually see each other's armies just yet. Oh, here we go. So both of them are taking a real big engagement. It's pretty much just throwing axemen though.
He is going, or both of them is going full H3.
Ah, yep, Ares. Yeah. Ares got the quicker one. Warlock's got it as well behind him. He's getting some cavalry as well. He's really going to need cavalry to try and defend this throwing axeman ball though, considering how many ranged units that Ares has got sprinkled into the mix. And Ares persisting on another upgrade. He's actually getting the long swordsman champion, which is a nice upgrade. He gets him the melee armor upgrade against throwing axemen, and then if he comes up against the bowman from the Norse player, it's also going to be good against that. And Warlock just getting his H3, just getting an armor upgrade. Pushing in right now, which is a good time for him to push in.
So I can't really hear you. So
Oh,
I don't.
sorry, mate.
Oh no, no I can't. Yeah, no I can't.
I completely forgot about you're not actually listening to the stream. Sorry, it's been a big day.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I mean,
But here we've got a big fight going in. 70, he had 75 throwing axemen then. Jesus Christ. It's a big mass comp here. But Ares is really starting to sprinkle in bowmen. He's got 12 of those. Maybe he should just go for mass range versus the mass TA comp? I don't know.
of course he should make make horsemen to tank. Use thrower axemen, and the rest is going to be food and bowmen.
Yeah, that's true. It's a really,
Obviously, came back trade.
really good trade for Warlock actually. He's
Yeah.
managed to spread his units along really well. He's had a really good concave this fight and he's picked off an awful lot of Ares force. He's going to get all of it in the end for basically still having half of his forces. Well, not really half. I suppose he had to rebuild an awful lot of that, but he managed to pull the fight all the way back from, you know, all the way from the mid-map down to there, and that's really good Norse play from him.
I told you, he's really good at Norse.
Yeah, he's probably one of the stronger the low bracket players for. Would you even call him low bracket? He's probably one of the strongest out of the top level pre-top level players for his Norse play, for sure. Because he's really good with using the throwing axemen and the raiders, the horsemen. So he's just taking out some production facilities and deny some vision as well. Force some towers out of Ares. He's got his third TC. Ares has got his third as well in the meantime. But Warlock, he's down a house.
Yeah, sometimes you put a house in the corner and you forget about it, and you can't find it.
That's it. Yeah, you go to auto queue it, and then something happens. You reselect the villager, or it dies, or you end up canceling it, or you just miss building one. You forget about it.
Maybe if you have, if this game have like hotkey for these things, can be useful. But I think Ares has to make more horsemen to tank these
Yeah,
strong axemen.
Ares really needs to, like, he's got a really good bowman count, but he really needs something else in the front line to be
He
able to
doesn't have
actually
it.
hold up. And having infantry there is just a bad idea against the throwing axeman, especially with the champion upgrade. He really needs a whole bunch of either horsemen or raiders just in the front line just to tank. And horsemen are obviously ideal. I mean, horsemen are bloody. Oh, does he get carps or are they age 4? Aren't they? Sorry. I'm thinking about from the Norse player's perspective for a sec. But here we've got a forward fortress coming out from Warlock, which is going to be quite devastating because it's right on Ares' doorstep. So there's all these houses here that are under threat. And if he can micro this well, he can take the fight and get this built, I think.
Yeah, Warlock is playing with fire now.
Oh, definitely. It's really good
I think
position. Sorry?
I think he can make it, or can he? He's lost so much.
He's lost so much of his forces, hey. He's going to get forced
Yeah,
back just at the end.
Yeah, that's why.
That's good defense from Ares. Yeah, that's really good fight from Ares.
Yeah.
He's must have microed really well onto all the throwing axemen then. He's able to repel Warlock then, and he's roughly even in score. He just hasn't got as much in the bank. But Warlock, he's going to go for this quick fortress in the midfield. Neither of them have actually really gone for any in the way of walls. And Ares is going for this cheeky gold mine pinch. He's going to pick off some throwing axemen, but he needs to be real careful not to lose too many bowmen here. He's got all his cavalry up at the back.
He's not paying attention.
Yeah, that's it. He's got most of his army not hitting anything, and he's got a lot of archers in a dangerous spot then. And now this is a little bit better, but he needs to move the archers up to really take out a lot of these throwing axemen. Otherwise, he's going to move straight back in, and well, it's going to be really tough for Ares because this area damage is going to take out multiple at once. Yeah, wow, they're really going to start falling. Doesn't look like there's much in the way of any harass happening on the map at the moment either, so Ares manages to hold, but he can't engage any further because Warlock is just building way too much stuff in the middle of the map. And this fortress, it's just denying way too many bowmen at once.
Yeah.
Like, he's losing 2 or 3 bowmen every couple of volleys.
He's now touching the horseman. I know. Although he's
Yeah, the horsemen though, the horsemen are really doing a lot of work for Ares because they're thinning out the throwing axeman numbers. So this fortress, it's pretty much surrounded by units. And the Great Horse, I'm not sure if that's really the best choice. Like, if you're going to build anything there, wouldn't you put like either towers or more barracks or something? Maybe you put the Great Horse a bit further back. Like he's just going to lose all his rhapsodies for free. Here we go. That's probably a bit more of a better choice for a forward building. And even now, it's probably a bit too late because he doesn't have the units to get it up quickly. So there's been a good push from Ares. And over on the top side, Ares is taken a gold mine and denied Warlock. And he's slowly chipping away with the single horseman. So down here at the mid map, he's well and truly cleaned up Warlock's army here, and he's gonna probably take this fortress. Although this is not a very good army comp to be able to do it, and I think the horsemen can't actually get through.
always. I think if Warlock had maybe skirmishes, they will do well.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really want to get skirmishes too early, but particularly when your opponent's got 40 plus bowmen, they're not a bad choice at all.
I mean, you don't get like 50 of them, like
No, you get
20.
like, yeah, exactly. You get like 15, 20, just
Yeah,
position them well, sort of use your cavalry to push your opponent's bowmen towards them, so you don't really have to try and chase. And yeah, pick off 3 or 4 bowmen like almost instantly.
at not losing units one at a time, just making go at once. He was losing every time one unit.
It's punishing when players just do that. They stream units in and they just lose way too much,
Yeah,
and then it ends up screwing up their later fights, which they probably could have won a lot of the time. So we see Warlock a bit caught in the middle here, and now they're all starting to wall up. Some more cavalry of Ares. He's been quite active this game with them, which is good. So he's denying another gold mine. Ares is really hurting Warlock's gold economy because he's only got the 4 gold villages at the moment. In fact, he's got 0 at the moment. So they're just doing a bit of a dance here, but this is really favourable for Ares because he's able to really force Warlock away from any gold. And he's only got a fairly small market line set up in terms of the number of caravans, so Ares can really start to bleed him dry, I think, here.
I think it's the best choice for if you want to win easily. Just deny his gold and he can make anything.
Well, that's it. And it doesn't seem to matter what civ you play. If you get denied over gold, most importantly, you just can't do anything. You can't get upgrades. You can't get any of the really any of the really population effective units, any of the good counter units. It just really hurts you.
Especially when the person against you use multiple cav places. They go on the top, right, left. Very hard to defend.
Yeah, exactly. If your opponent's good at splitting their calves and they can deny your gold, they don't even have to worry about things like proxy or forward position fortresses or towers or anything like that because you're not even going to have enough to defend it to begin with. And Ares has already mined out a gold mine over Warlock's side of the map, which is quite smart. And he's denied him from being able to do the same over at his side of the map and then forced him off a gold mine. So Warlock doesn't have a lot of gold behind this. And Ares, he's got a population advantage. He's got a small villager lead. And he's got more resources in the bank too, so... Actually, it's probably about the same in terms of resources, but I don't think Warlock's gathering as effectively at the moment. And anyway, we've got a big fight going down inside Ares' base. So with Ares, he's got the TC and the towers there, and he's getting some carps. So this is a nice force to try and repel this with. He's got plenty of the cavalry, like we were talking about earlier, which he's really going to need to help keep all his bowmen alive. So I think he's transitioned pretty well in the end, ultimately. Where do you think we go from here, Greeky? We're both in age 4 now.
I think it's more at this time. It's more of microing your cav and denying gold.
They keep denying the gold and then eventually bleed him dry. And for either player. Yeah. Now, getting the gold mines, even if it's greedy like this, is pretty smart. Like, it's got 2,000 health, so your opponent can focus it. And they're not even killing the villagers yet. So if Ares had a little bit more to fight this, or he fled the villagers out at the right time, it could be really good for him, because he's not really going to lose as much as he would pretty much any other civ. Although he is going to lose all the villagers, which is a bit of a shame. But it's a good choke for him here. So he is eventually going to force Warlock to retreat, but he's been forced off a gold of his own.
I mean, at that stage, you don't need villages on gold. Just get markets and just spam these caravans. Just
Just
get
get double or
everything.
triple market and just get all the way up to
Yeah,
like 40 caravans.
yeah, and just defend them with some walls and counterballs,
Mm.
and you're good.
Oh, that's it. And then, I mean, all you got to do from that position is just do a better job than your opponent of either killing the caravans or killing another resource gatherer like, you know, their woodline or their farms. But even still, once you get to this late though, you can't rely on that to win you the game if your opponent's just as good at doing the same thing, I think.
Yeah,
You've got to take a good fight as well at some point a lot of the time, and it looks like both of them are trying to do that. So Warlock's actually pushing up into Ares' base again. He's taking a good fight in amongst the buildings though, so these cavalry are going to have it a bit harder trying to get to him, but he needs to keep active. Like, the more time he spends running, the more opportunity his opponent has to get free hits on him here.
oh, Ares is raiding as well in the back.
Ares is raiding? Oh, okay. He's managed to take out a longhouse. He's got a lot of cavalry there, but he's going to force Warlock to go back because he's noticed it. He's picked off the two longhouses, a couple of villages. Just a nice little raid. How did he actually get in? Oh, he's got this side walled off. That's genius,
Yeah,
Ares. That's actually genius. So he's still putting in a little bit of work here, trying to get the last few villages that he can, rather than trying to focus the fight first. Because I think he's had the work account lead for most of the game. Like, it's even now, but at one stage Ares was like 107 to Warlock's 92. So differences like that really can make the difference here, I think. And he's going to keep getting some more caravans, and he's managed to repel the forces. He's still running stuff through. That's really smart play from Ares, having walled up his opponent's
yeah.
side of the map. Because what can Warlock do? Chuck a wall in front of it? I mean,
Yeah, he can actually do that.
he can do that. It's just that it costs him a little bit more, and he's got to pick his time as well, because he doesn't know when his opponent's going to run stuff through, I suppose. And he's putting some good pressure down here. He just doesn't want to lose too much. He's managed to take both markets out, forcing Warlock to have to rebuild them. Although he's already had another two down there as well. So that's good defensive play from Warlock. And he is getting some walls, but Ares is just walling up inside it. So setting up a very fun game with the wall creep. Ares has got a little fortress here as well. Managed to sneak some Carpentons inside to try and hit it from both sides, but he's got to be careful here because they can get pinned up against the wall here if he doesn't get this down fast enough.
Yeah, they get one shot.
Oh, yeah.
Now he's massing up these units. I don't know their name.
I'll just call them Ulfs. I'm not pronouncing the rest of that shit. I can leave that to the German players. But he's got a well split army here because I mean he's got this chief here giving all these cavalry 20% extra health, and same with all the bowmen. So is it 20%?
Actually, don't play North, so I don't know.
I think it's 20%. Because I think they've got a base 1,000 health, and then they give themselves 20% as well. It's a really nice fight from him. He's having cleaned up Ares on that side, but has he got enough to keep pushing him back? I think he does, because he's got an awful lot queued up, and Ares... Oh, actually, sorry, that's Ares with an awful lot queued up. Warlock,
Yeah.
a little bit slower in getting everything requeued after
Yeah,
having
he's
it.
already at max.
Yeah, Ares is
He's
all...
already max.
Jesus, Ares is already maxed. I thought Warlock would have come out on top then, because he was fighting really well, but Ares is just remaxing so much faster at the moment. Oh yeah, and Warlock's down here, but he doesn't really even know about... Ah, now he's figured it out. Ares has been quite cheeky with gathering in his opponent's side of the base. So Ares is just slowly working his way down into his opponent's corner of the map. He's done a lot of work this game with this push. Sorry?
Yeah. Actually, if Ares just spam Wood Raiders, he will easily win. Because
Yeah,
Wood Raiders are really good and strong, fast units. You know, even Raiders hard just die fast against them.
yeah,
Their
that's
buildings
true.
fast.
If he just gets worried Raiders, and then maybe even a couple of cavalry behind that just to split off and harass somewhere else, he can
Yeah.
do so much damage with it. And, like, he's taking out every single market of Warlocks with the Woads. Like, that's 3 markets down straight away. Over here he's got Carps picking at the caravans.
With the splash damage as well. So VFox he's actually playing really well.
Yeah, Ares is doing a lot to try and keep in and come back. And in fact, he's pulling ahead of Warlock the longer this one seems to go on. Really, really strong tonight.
He doesn't even need his army. He just raids non-stop.
Well, that's it. I think a lot of the times, I think almost every matchup, there's points in the game when you can actually play like that and win the game. If your opponent doesn't pressure your side of the map enough, you can just produce that much crap and maintain a worker count lead and continually pick things off that they never manage to come back. And eventually, with enough siege and cavalry and like multi-pronged attacks, your opponent just falls over. Like he's got better field position everywhere, except he just might lose this side if he's not careful.
I mean, it's easy to raid, but it's hard to defend raid.
Well, that's it. Exactly. It's always easier to be the aggressor than the defender in the raiding situation. And like every time this is happening, he's denying Warlock's ability to get, 84 gold per market, so per caravan. So that's heaps. Even if he's trading negatively on these woads, like he's doing so much better in terms of
Yeah.
his economy and production continually because of it.
Yeah. He
And
can
like
mass champions, and Warlock can't do anything about it.
exactly, he's going to be in a better position to mass champions than Warlock is going to be into mass berserkers. And come late game, that's going to be what really makes the difference, I think. Although if he doesn't catch this, he can lose a lot to it because that's an awful lot, especially with that that chieftain thrown in there. That
He already
extra.
has thousands of bank, and he's already massing champions, so he's having actually fun.
Yeah, Ares, he's in a good spot here. Even if he loses a lot with this, you think that he's going to be able to get the champions up in time, that he can just turn it around and push to win? Because I mean, he's got fortresses all over the map. Like I don't see him losing anytime soon. And right now he's got Ramsden destroying everything. He's taking another fortress here. He's playing really aggressively over Warlock's side of the map, and yeah, Warlock just doesn't seem to have enough of a response. Like he's got a response, but it's just not enough. There's more coming up through here, but it's going to get scouted and it's going to get walled off again. Losing the rest of the forces there, and down here he's only just going to scout that fortress. Although it's going to be early enough.
It's actually impressive that Warlock still alive.
Sorry?
Warlock is still alive. It's actually impressive.
Yeah.
Warlock.
Yeah, it's...
Like, he has 10 gold. He should be dead already.
Yeah, he has no gold. He's slowly gathering it, slowly building his caravan numbers up and trying to take the gold, I suppose. But yeah, it's... Ares has really bled him dry because he's got so much more in the bank. And it's... Yeah, he's just... These 40 pop up 20 max pop up. He's got the champions out. Like, things are really going his way this game. And he's double walling. He's losing stuff on the other side of the map, but it's alright. He's double walled that side, and he's going to be able to put as much pressure as he can down there. And his opponent's not really going to be able to respond quickly because there's no actual siege from Warlock. And Ares is getting champion squared.
He's making Spearman as well.
Oh, interesting. I suppose they're a really cheap throwaway unit, and they just help protect you from the cavalry. So, you know, the champions kill all the elves, and then the spearmen just kill everything else. And this is a really good push from him because he's Warlock has no opportunity to actually push back anywhere on the map except around here. But like, he's got 2 fortresses there. That's plenty to defend.
And walls as well.
Oh, wow. He's forced it out of him. Wow, GG. Ares has done it. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, the multitasking on Ares' side.
Ares just... His field position that game was incredible. He never got broken into on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, he just pushed straight into Warlock's base. And then down the center, he just played a really, really good back-and-forth game all game long. That was a really good effort from both players there. So fun to watch. Very back and forth game, man. The worker counts are everywhere. Like, Warlock actually leapt up in worker count at the end, just as like a bit of a last ditch attempt, I think, because he knew he was behind in economy and he had to do something. And just with Ares' field position again, with all those multi walls, he couldn't raid him anymore.
Yeah, it was hard. Warlock is asking for 1 minute.
Yeah, that's fine. I think I need a minute as well.
Yeah.
It's been real fun though. But yeah, if you don't mind, man, I might be a couple of minutes. I'll just run it by the guys as well. Alright, sorry guys. I'll take a short break.
Can you hear me now? Correctly, clearly? Yeah, it's fine, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Trying to let Ares win. I see. Actually, same. I have to sleep within some minutes. Yeah, hope so.
Alright guys, it looks like we're back on. We've got Warlock picking Lowland Groves for map 2. So Greeky and I are all ready, the players are all ready, we're going to start this one. Got an EVB or BVE, depending on whose perspective.
Actually, Ares can go mass slingers comp.
Yeah, you can be in the Egypt player into the Babylonian, because the Babs player is probably going to want to open for with archers, bowmen fairly early, in order to respond to Ares probably going for some quick barracks play. Although he might even opt for the stables play, because it is a bit of a bigger map, so we'll just have to see how this one goes. Warlock, I think he's picked it because he's probably thinking he can defend against the raids a little bit better and try and sneak some of his own in. So he's throwing down an early barracks, and Ares is a little bit slower on his. Last game, I think did Ares have the quicker barracks and ended up winning? So
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the decider of this game, is that Warlock's going for the quicker harass. He's the Babylonian. Like we said, if you're Keld or Babylonian, you probably want to open with the early attack.
Yeah, especially against Egypt.
Well, that's it. You don't really want them to get on a roll in Age 2 where they've either got uncontested stables or barracks tech, and then they just turn around and flog you because they can just pretty much just build around the 1, where you probably want to build around the 2. Yeah.
Egypt spearmen can't do much against Babylonian spearmen.
Yeah, that's true. Babylonians have got really good spearmen, along with Babylonian and Norse. Spearmen seem to be really good for fighting with, and then Celt spearmen for raiding. and harassing. And whereas the other civs, I think they sort of tend to struggle in age 1 a bit. And he's got some spears of his own out now, Ares. He hasn't queued up a third just yet. Warlock's still pumping out some more and he's up to 3 already. Got a third now, Ares. And Warlock's actually cut his queue. He's probably looking to see if he's expanded onto this one. No, he hasn't, so he's going to wrap around. Try and hit the first one. Microed them a little bit far, I think. He probably should have just gone straight around the corner as soon as he knew there was nothing there. But I mean, it's not a huge amount of time, and at the same time he knows Ares is behind him, so he's got time to force a couple of villagers back. Maybe try to pick this loose one off and get out. That's a nice trade.
Priestess.
The priestess there though. He could try and go for the priestess.
Yeah, he can.
He can. Yeah, he's got enough spears to get her down, so he's going to try and pick her off, which could be quite big because that's basically a free 100 gold the Egyptian player starts with that he doesn't have anymore. And that can mean extra villages, extra units, extra resources that the Egyptian player no longer has access to because he's lost that priestess. And his spears are falling now, and Ares is forced to bring out a lot of spears to defend against this though, so it's really good harass by Warlock. He's really only invested 5 or 6 spears for that. Although he has lost them all, so he has to be a bit careful now. So he's looking at transitioning. He's got his age 2 on the way. Ares hasn't just yet. He hasn't quite got the food. He's got an awful lot of wood in the bank. Neither player's really opted for stone yet. Maybe looking to be a bit more aggressive first.
Yeah, he's going.
Yeah, he's going to go in, I think, because he's got the unit advantage. So
Yeah.
why not try and make
now
use of it?
Iris, yeah, now actually Iris is distracted, so he's not making villas at this moment.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Ares, he's not making villages. He's only just started queuing that one. He's not focusing on aging up. Warlock, he's got that Ziggurat on the way, so Ares needs to make something happen here, even though he's got the slight unit advantage. But like we were saying, the Egyptian spears, unless you micro them really, really well, they're not going to win against many of the other civs. But having this scout here helps a bit in terms of being able to pull another couple of free hits, and you can get it out for free, pick another spear. There's another really, really low 2 there. So Ares is doing a lot of work in driving Warlock back, but by the same token, he has fallen a bit behind. He's taking his stone quicker, funnily enough, whereas Warlock's opting for the quicker range. And he's getting an early garden as well, so Warlock's really built around his age 1, I mean his 1 TC sort of tech at the moment.
Yeah, he don't seem to go on H2 here. I think he's going to rush H1.
Yeah,
Oh no, he's making it. Just started going H2.
yeah, so he's just started getting his stone. He's a little bit slow on it though, because Ares is pretty much done. And I mean, he's got the early garden, but is the 1 food trickle really going to be that much? I don't think it is. He's going to look at a good TC placement, and wow, that's a really generous spawn for him.
I
Whereas,
think we should see the spawns before we see. I mean, this is really bad for Warlock to have this.
yeah, this is actually going to be a really tough map for him, I think, because
Like literally
he's
6,000 gold mine like already.
yeah, exactly. He's got a double gold mine, whereas Warlock, he's forced to go either here and be really unsafe, or back here and be more or less irrelevant. Whereas Ares, he's sort of really safe, and he gets an awful lot out of it. He's sort of safer than Warlock is in either opportunity there, really. So
Yeah, he has to make something with his bowman and his comp already. If he doesn't do anything, he will be behind in villagers.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, he's housed as well. He needs to really get some houses up. He's got one on the way. So Ares, yeah, he's got that 2 TC versus Warlock's single TC. Opting for another garden. Doesn't have the wood yet to actually throw off his second TC, so it's really delayed from him. But in the same token, he's got that. Sorry.
Yeah, another thing. PF2K messaged me and he said, change the scenes in OBS. They can't see anything in the stream.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I did. Oh my god. For some reason when I alt tab into the game, it doesn't let me. Pain in the ass. Okay. Anyway, so we were talking about this. This is really easy for Ares to defend with a single TC. While up on Warlock's side, it hasn't been quite such an even spawn, and probably could have restarted over that, to be honest. But I don't know. Warlock seems content to play on, but he's capped on his population again. I mean, he's done a better. Sorry.
Yeah, he's making camels for raids.
Yeah. But he's just sort of chasing him now at the moment with them. I suppose the beauty is he can slowly chip away at those archers at least. And it's Warlock, he's finally got that second TC coming out.
9 minutes in the game.
Yeah, that's a really long time for a second TC.
And he hasn't done anything useful with the army advantage he had.
Yeah, that's true. He's sort of really been kept in the game by his worker advantage because Ares cut workers early, I think. I think both of them have a fair bit.
See the numbers of villagers differences. 37, 39. He's a little. I think because of the first push, it had this.
Yeah, that's true.
Damage. Yeah.
He dealt good damage then, and Ares had a bit of downtime because he had to try and get a lot of spears out. And these gardens, I mean, they're really starting to ramp up in usefulness. Like, I sort of criticized Warlock for taking it so early over his town center, but now that he's got the town center and he's got the gardens and he's building up more, it's not a bad spot for him to be in. Both of them are having a bit of a stalemate at the moment, not really doing anything in the middle of the map, just filling up their production, not banking any resources. They're doing a good job of spending this game, although they seem to be spending a lot of time capped. Warlock's really got to start getting some more houses down. And over here at the side, Ares is pinching the last couple of sheep, and Warlock looking at moving in. So we've got a big fight here, and a big bowman count from Warlock, but Ares with a big slinger count. And he's got his cavalry as well, so he can split off just as Warlock's getting some cavalry of his own. So it's going to be interesting because we're going to see both players being able to raid coming out of this, I think, if they don't throw away all their cavalry here. But these spearmen from Warlock are doing a lot of damage because they can really keep the camels out, and now he can just push straight back, and his bowmen are relatively safe.
Actually, 3 priestesses just died in the middle, went melee mode.
Yeah, oh, that's not good for Ares at all. Losing priestesses like that, because that's a lot of gold.
Yeah, I think 300 or something. 300.
Yeah, it's 100 each until you get the H3 upgrade. So that's a lot for him. And Warlock's able to push straight back with this because he's got a really nice comp, and it hasn't cost him a lot because it's the bulk of it is just ranged units and spearmen. He's only got a couple of lancers. So the Egyptian player Ares is forced to retreat here. He's up to 15 gold minus in order to make up for losing all those priestesses, and that also hurts him because he can't heal his army as effectively. He's got three more now, but he needs to be really careful to not throw those away. But he's done a good job at positioning his cavalry here at the back of the ball, but there's also some spears here to defend against them already.
Great micro by both.
Yeah, it's really good micro by both players here. Although I think Warlock's starting to break through now. He's pushed in right back. He's picked off all the cavalry, and it's mostly just slingers and the priestesses. Maybe you should focus down the priestesses. There's one here that's quite... Yeah, no, she's going to go down. So he's down to only 2 priestesses, and there's... Yeah, well, that's going to be tough now, though, because he's lost his front line, so he's only got those bowmen, so the army can fold quite quick now. He really needs to resupply. So roughly even in terms of population, but Warlock's doing a good job to micro onto individual slingers here. He's just pulling back, sniping individual units as he can. He's got sort of the reinforcement advantage here because he's much closer to his base. Ares, on the other hand, is having to sort of pull back, get his healing out as best as he can.
He needs more of these shield barriers to tank the slingers.
Yeah, he needs more shield bearers, and he could do with pharmacology as well to get the healing up, because especially against civs like Egypt who have early healing options, you probably want to get it yourself, because every time you pull back, that's time you get free healing on everything. And this whole time, like, he could be healing while they're having these drawn out engagements, but instead Ares is just slowly healing his forces and pulling them back, which is quite good play from the Egyptian player. He's not losing a lot, and he's slowly chipping away at the front line. But the bearers are slowly being worked into the composition, which is good. He needs more, though. He needs more. But this has been a good kite here from Ares. There's been a good chase from Warlock too. And he needs to not lose too many of those bearers, because if they go down, then the range units are free to just pick on other range units. So, and these camels have to be pulled back. This is a really tricky fight for both players, I think. But I think Warlock's actually got the advantage going into this. He just seems to have a little bit more in terms of the unit count, and he's basically at the max population, whereas Ares sort of about 30 under. Neither player seems to really be doing much in the way of raiding elsewhere on the map. They're just focusing on this big fight here.
Now shield barriers going.
Yeah, there's more shield barriers going in to do a bit of work, pull all the damage off the ranged, and yeah, it seems to really be doing the difference, because all these bowmen and the couple of slingers mixed amongst them seem to be taking out this mass slinger army and forcing it back. And there's not even any healing on the Bab army, like I was saying, so it's been a really good fight from Warlock for now, because he's just forcing Ares all the way back across the other side of the map, but he doesn't want to overextend too much, because it's going to get too easy for the Egyptian to remax off his barracks, I think, so he's got to be careful, because he's just got to cover all that extra walking distance. This is really nice fighting from both players, just a constant back and forth.
I think Warlock, if he had like more shield barriers and slinger scope, he can beat this.
Yeah, that's it. If he sort of thinned out the bowman numbers and used them just to pick the infantry off, and then was mostly slinger, I think he'd be able to trade with Ares, especially if he did get pharmacology, or now that he's hitting age 3 and Ares is still stuck in age 2, get some priests out. I think he can really turn the tide of the battle here. Although Ares, his positioning's not bad, like, because he comes in, he heals for a little bit, gets off a volley and backs off again, and it's good Egyptian play, because he's able to make use of an awful lot of healing here. And he's dragged his opponent straight over that, so Warlock's awkwardly sort of positioned there, and Ares is just back at his base again, so Ares is sort of in the space to be able to remax and catch up to Warlock here, but Warlock is also going to be able to throw down a third TC as well, so Gonna have to see how this pans out in the end, because it's quite a big fight going on here, because Warlock will just not give up. He wants to try and deny Ares the opportunity to actually push out anywhere on the map and even secure.
He's fighting again under.
Yeah, he's fighting. He's fighting under the buildings, and it looks like he's just about doing it. It's a really hard fight to take, and he's just about doing it. But he's securing his third at the same time. I think is the idea. Is like he lost a little bit more, I think, but it might have been worth it because he's going to get that third TC up quicker. Whereas Ares sort of hasn't responded yet. He's still distracted.
Yeah, distraction is really, really off. But
Like he's just
he's going for a fortress. Yeah, he's going for a fortress.
Ares is.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, because
I saw it.
I know he's expanding now. I think he must have been umming and ahhing about whether or not, because he pulled these villages and then stopped, like you said, he might have been going for Fortress and then decided in the end to go for the TC. I think he's sort of panicking a bit because Warlock's putting him under a lot of pressure with this army.
Oh, he already has a fortress. I meant Ares. He has
Ares. Oh, he's got a fortress here at base. Oh, he does too. Oh shit.
Yeah.
I completely missed that one. So this is a good fight from Ares actually. He's spread all around here and he's going to be able to catch all of Warlock's army. So even though Warlock's sort of set up in the better middle position, this fight could really go Ares' way here. He's just got to be careful to not lose too many units on the south side and let him push down, or lose too many on the north side and let him push up and out. So, but it looks like Warlock's done a good job at forcing his way back out. Oh.
Especially Elephant's one-man army.
Yeah, it's just doing a lot of work. That's a lot of area of effect damage, especially for a composition that's not getting any healing. This is a really good use of elephants from Ares, but really nice fighting otherwise from Warlock. And Warlock's got a large lancer ball there, so he can go in, wrap around and harass. So this is going to keep Ares quite busy because he's going to have to try and focus the ranged units with his war elephants, and then try and also deal with these lancers who are, right on his market line again.
Yeah. Warlocks needs MA's mounted archers to deal with the elephants, otherwise he can't really put a fight with mass archers and slingers.
Yeah, that's it. He needs something to fight the elephants, or keep them, or keep Ares that distracted that he can't use them. And he's getting a workshop in the middle map as well. This is a bold move from Warlock. I think he's looking to try and seal the deal here. He's cracked a hole open here. He's managed to destroy the market, and he's bringing the cavalry back round to defend the ranged units. Although that's a really nice position for that one. Take down a lot of those units. Oh, that's really bad for these mounted archers just being right in front of the war elephant like that.
Yeah.
They're quite expensive, and he's going to lose one and nearly a second for that. He has got pharmacology tech though.
He has no gold.
Yeah, Ares is all out of gold, and he's stopped producing anything. There's nothing in Ares' production. He really needs to win this fight.
Yeah, because Warlocks denied all his gold, even the top side, right?
Even that one.
No,
Oh, yeah, that one. Ah, yep. Yeah, Warlock's done a good job at really denying the gold and forcing him, off anything in the middle of the map. And now he's at the stage where he's got his siege towers and he's going to be able to roll into Ares' base. I'd look at it. Because he's got a 50 supply lead. Ares is going to have to queue up an awful lot real quick. And this fight, it's going to be just as bad for Ares to take as Warlock, I think. Considering he just isn't going to have the units to take advantage of the defender's advantage. So this siege tower is going to come in, fully garrisoned, all these units inside it. Doesn't matter. He's still got enough here to be able to take the fight.
Yeah, and Ares is having a market, trading with his 4K wood. Now he has like 800.
Oh, okay. He must have another market now. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. So the pressure valve's been turned a little bit. He might be able to hold this now, especially because Warlock's got an awful lot in there. Really, you don't need that much in there. That's an awful lot of units to commit inside the single tower. So especially when there's all these war elephants and he's not focusing it with the tower. So he's going to get repelled here, I think. And Ares is going for the double wall. We'll lose that tower. But he's got more cavalry in as well. Deal a bit more damage. Be careful not to lose these. In the meantime, Ares, he's done a really good job at defending his base. He's lost a couple of houses and a tower, but otherwise he's relatively unscathed. And he's not far behind, I don't think. So it's 94 v 109, actually, in terms of the villager count. So Warlock's playing a fair bit greedier on the villagers, but his,
What's how these guys doing?
yeah.
I think he tried to put a fortress in the middle.
It's always funny when one of them tries to build somewhere and the other tries to build in the exact same spot or right next to it. Oh, what's this caravan doing? Oh, now that's not good for Ares because now Warlock knows as well. He's going to come across, try and get around there, and if he cleans that up, this could be it for Ares, I think. Warlock's taking a really greedy gold here. He's got all these units here. Just got to keep them alive, I think, and he's going to try to take this fortress with a big line of units here. But Ares has actually got more units over here because Warlocks are over here fluffing around trying to take the market. So, looks like Ares is going to deny this from Warlock. And he's got so much here. He's got 2 ox carts as well as a whole bunch of villagers. And they're just going to die pretty much for free. And meanwhile, Warlock, I think he's just sort of panicked with this cavalry. He hasn't known whether to bring them back or deal any damage. Because there's all this over here. And he's just moving in now, but down here in the middle of the map, he's losing these workshops. And Ares is just wall creeping and forcing him back further and further.
Yeah, and the raids, but he has really good raids. The bottom side with lancers. He denied his gold and his market.
Yeah. He's done well with the gold in the market now that he's going to wrap them up again. I was just surprised that he seemed to delay a bit. I think he was maybe checking this one as well. Because, I mean, if Ares was relying on both of those golds as well as the market, that could be it. But right now, it's a bit more back and forth in the mid-map again. Warlock just loves his ranged units, and Ares just loves his slingers. So
Yeah, as I said, he's going to last slingers.
and it's funny, all these caravans that we see coming out. We saw some risky caravans running through there earlier.
Yeah, this caravan literally put all his friends and his market as well. Just by revealing himself.
So he's still up there harassing, but he's not on the stone. So he's brought the rest of them across to try and deal some more damage, and he's got the charge upgrade as well, so that's going to come in real handy. It's a bit of a messy one, this fight here. Ares is doing what he can to try and retake this position, but I don't know if he can. But saying that, Warlock's the one backing out right now. Just trying to take the elephant without losing too much. Because it is hard. They are an AoE unit, and they're very tanky. Down here on the bottom side, we've got Raid from Warlock, forcing a whole bunch of villagers off.
Oh my.
That's an awful lot of villagers off the farms.
Look at the bank now. From Ares and from Warlock.
Yeah, wow, Warlock managing to do an awful lot of harass and really keeping his economy up alive. 103 workers versus 75, so he's actually taken about 15 workers of Ares out, which is huge. up at the top side here. He's going to be forcing in. He's maxed. Ares is just about, but a lot of that is Chariot Archers still in queue, so Warlock's got a couple of seconds worth before they all start popping out. It's probably not a good idea to park yourself right next to the fortress, maybe try and attack around the other side, but at the same time he may have the units to pull this off. Because Ares has spread himself quite thin to be able to hit him at all three sides. And he's going to be able to field units all down through here. So Warlock's having to pull back again. Ares has managed to whittle down his forces. It wasn't the greatest of fights, stuck in between the fortress and the town centre. But Ares not able to kill off the entirety of the force. He's exactly enough on the top side just to kill off everything. But he's going to catch all these villagers of Warlocks who are repeatedly trying to whittle down this stone. Whittle down this gold. He wants to try and force a reverse in the last game where his opponent, he ran dry on gold, and he wants to try and do the same to Ares this game. But up here on the top side, we've got Ares with the siege tower coming through, and a bunch of lancers spotting it at the last second, so they should clean that up quite quickly. Down here in the mid-map, we've got a big fight here, a whole bunch of chariot archers, just a couple of bowmen, and I don't know if Warlock's really got enough here at the middle of the map at the moment. Here we go. It's got some mounted archers of his own coming in, some lancers, but it's going to be quite tough fighting into the ranged cavalry, I think. It's 10 v 13, so 13 v 9. So it's really good use of the chariot archers here from Ares, whittling down Warlock's forces. Despite his much bigger bank, Warlock doesn't seem to be able to seal the deal at the moment.
I don't know if Warlock has really good storehouse upgrade. Yeah, he just made his farm upgrade.
Yeah. Neither player's actually, considering how long that they've both been in H3, neither player's really made great use of their storehouse upgrades. I think they've been that distracted from the back and forth that they haven't really even thought about it. And there's a good number of bearers here from Ares, which is nice considering that, from Warlock considering how cheap they are, but he really needs to get some more food going. He's got so much wood in the bank, but not so much of the other resources. And Ares, in the meanwhile, doesn't have a lot of anything, but he seems to have a fairly even amount of nothing. The only thing he's got a lot of is stone, really. I don't know if this is going to get up in time. Meanwhile, over here on the top side, we've got Ares putting down some pressure, trying to sneak over into Warlock space, maybe try and kill some caravans off. He just might get this down. Oh, he's done it. He's got the fortress down the middle of the map, so Ares solidifying his position just in front of that gold, which is going to be nice for him. And he's got some caravans in here. Got some camels in here hitting the caravans. Warlock's managed to reach the gold age. Ares is still just in the silver, but he's doing a lot of work with this raid over here. Warlock's still got a big economy lead, so it's 102 workers versus 84. It's definitely still Warlock's way, but Ares he's down, but he's not out. He wants to try and secure a 2-0, I think.
Yeah.
They've both played so well. Now I don't want to run into either of them now.
They're equally skilled. Maybe Ares is a little bit better with the multitasking.
Sorry?
Maybe Ares
is a little bit better at the multitasking. Yeah. I think he is, and I think Warlock's just a little bit better at taking the fights. And it's been a really good matchup. This looks like it's probably going to go to 3 games.
31 minutes.
Yeah, we've been casting the pair of these guys for an hour in total, or over an hour in total now, and there might even be a third game. So This has been a goodie, exhausting goodie. And now we see both players, yeah, trying to make work of cavalry. 2 parts of the map. The Warlocks. That fortress from Ares is a really smart one because Warlock's forced to getting out Palantonons to be able to do anything, and he's having to get Total War as well, which is Total War is actually one of the best techs in the game, to be honest. The 50% damage increase against villagers, and 10% against everything else. Well, on top of that, basically. And considering it's only 400 of each resource, it's so strong. But that single Palantonon, so they're going to chip away at that fortress. Where Ares can really get a lot out. Hasn't got a lot of resources compared to Warlock, hey?
Yeah, he's coming back. He has a really good bank, both of them actually.
Yeah, both of them have good banks. I just think Warlock's, because he's got 10,000 wood. I think he's got a slight upper hand there, really, because he's just had that slight production lead, or slight worker count lead most of the game. And neither of them seem to be able to sit at max for very long. And right now, Ares is losing an awful lot in this big push from Warlock. All these this mixed range comp. I think this mixed range comp might have done it because Ares is just sent a GG in chat. He's just pulling back just to see if he can make one last raid, and that may be it.
I mean, he's still age 3.
Yeah.
While Warlock is age 4 and he has almost maxed.
Yeah, well, Ares, he's just typed GG. He's stopped producing anything. I think he's going to look at taking one last fight. He's just reached Golden Age. Oh, there we go. He's queued up a whole bunch of stuff. That's weird. Maybe he's just trying to mind game him.
Yeah, maybe. It works sometimes.
He mind gamed me, that's for sure. Warlock hasn't got anything in the queue, but I suppose he can't. He's maxed now. So Ares, he's got to try and get this age 4 out. He's got to try and get up a 4th TC before he loses any of his others. Otherwise, I think this is all over for him. So
I think he's trying to make a comeback with the priest.
yeah.
Convert all his enemy. All his enemy units.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to position them really well. But the range on the age 4 Egypt priests is pretty strong. Like, and if your opponent doesn't notice, you can capture a whole army. But I don't know if that's going to be the case here because there's these 2 Palantonons really putting down the work. There's houses going down. There's the town center going down. All these range units here for Warlock and a single Lancer putting in some work. GG. So that takes us to 1 each. How do you feel about that, man?
I mean, I'm already like 40 minutes late. So I think I'll just stop. Yeah, I can't.
Oh man,
continue.
I don't mind. I'm happy to cast the last one alone. I understand completely because I'm fucking wrecked myself. Sorry, I shouldn't have sworn on the stream, but yeah, it's it's been a real back and forth series. This one, holy, it's been a good match.
Some action going on.
Actually, I have another quick look at the scores. I'll have a look at the work account. So yeah, Warlock was in the lead for the workers nearly all the game, but there was a point even at about 24 minutes where Ares actually snatched it off him. So yeah, that was what a game that was.
Can't wait for the 3rd game.
Yeah, are you gonna cast it then, or are you gonna jump off?
Actually, no, I'm gonna watch it tomorrow.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I can understand that.
Okay. Good luck at Kansas the 3rd game. See ya.
All right. Well, thanks, man. See you later. Hey.
Night.
Good night. Alright guys, well we're just going to be a couple of minutes. I think we all need a break just after that one. What a game that was. What a series this is turning out to be.
Ahura Mazda bless you.
Alright guys, so we've got game 3 in the final series before I have a heart attack. So, to start with, we've got both players opting for some early wood. Obviously going to try and sneak out an early barracks. Seems to really be the way to approach the game at the moment. Ares actually opting for a storehouse as well. Warlock moving straight out, getting the barracks, feeding the Babs player. He's got that ox cart. So now, pretty much identical builds considering the civ differences. So, I'm all running. Cool. Sorry guys, I just wanted to check quickly. Didn't want to get some messages, angry messages 20 minutes in. I can't see the game. Because you deserve to. You deserve to see it. AoEO in all its glory. So, got Warlock clearing another hunt. Ares, he's cleared a second. He's going to try and patrol the third. And then maybe look at scouting his opponent's base or taking the water. We'll see what happens here. So he's going to get some extra sheep. Sort of check the water line, see if there's another pair further down. So, got some spears coming out for both players. 5 villagers on the hunt. And I think there's 4 here for Warlock. So Ellie Scout, he confirms the barracks is there, yep. And meanwhile, Ares, he hasn't actually scouted Warlock, but assuming how the last couple of games are gone, he's actually, that's really smart. He denied that for a second there. That was he shouldn't have moved his scout, to be honest. That was really smart having it there. Maybe he just got lucky with that, but he could have denied that even longer. But anyway, he's got his 3 spears out. He's confirmed that his opponent's going to open there, which is great. He's got the spear advantage. He just needs to really look at getting in, denying it, which is good. Good play there from Warlock. Ares forced to have to respond. He's brought his priestess over as well. Try not to lose anything. He really doesn't need to lose her though. He's got to be careful with that. So this is good play from him though. Managing to secure the position. Drive back Warlock, who's got all these low spears now. You see a lot of gold being taken by Warlock. He's got 4, whereas Ares has none on the gold just yet. He must have gathered some gold and taken off, but he's really got to start getting some more villagers out. There we go. He's got some more stuff in production. Same with Warlock. He's actually cut, but he's managed to get loom, an early loom, just in case he does get forced back here. So it's really smart tech choices from both players here. big ball of spears coming in on a slightly smaller ball from Warlock onto Ares, and this Priestess though is really going to make all the difference, so he's going to have to... That's very smart of Ares. He's brought that back just as Warlock's tried to push in on it. And he's pulling in the villagers just before they take too many hits. So he's got all these really low spears. So Ares is doing a lot of work keeping everything alive at the moment, defending everything as well as he can. Warlock forced right back. We've got a pause, actually. Something must happen with Warlock. We'll be back in just a minute, guys. Warlock's had to AFK for just a sec. Strange, so I've had a look at what else is going on around the map. So Ares, he's really got to force out this next house. He's had to cut his production, force out Loom. Warlock in the meantime, he's back now, and he's moving in. Moving back out though, because that's not the wisest of trades with the Priestess right in behind, keeping everything alive. It's going to be hard for him to try and pinch anything of Ares here, but Ares in the meantime is going to be able to pinch a Spearman of his own off Warlock, I think. No, he's got that one back really quite low, and he's going to get this one quite low as well. So, not quite so well for Warlock in the opening. He did deny that opening storehouse, but after that, I think it really sort of was mostly Ares' way in terms of that early pressure. Taking the Temple of Ra. Warlock hasn't actually opted to start queuing up his age 3 just yet, and he hasn't really got the food to do so. Really should probably look at getting on these goats rather than sitting all on the berries there. So we've got a nice ball of 8 spears versus a nice ball of 8 spears. Another barracks coming out for Warlock. Ares in the meantime has also aged up. He's halfway there on his stone. He's just going to get some more wood as well. We've got a Ziggurat coming out from Warlock as well. So we've got the 2 civs where you don't actually have to queue up your age up through your town centre. But he's a little bit slow on getting those workers back up. Sometimes it's just hard to try and balance all the multitasking at once. But Ares just scouting out the waterline, making sure Warlock can't take it. So it's got a nice force here of 13 spears. It's not usually advisable on Egypt, but at the end of the day, if you've got more than your opponent and you push in, as long as you don't micro a lot worse than him, you can walk away with a favourable fight. So Ares again, opting for a fairly early dock. You've already casted the game today where he has opted for heavier dock play than his opponent. It might have been this game versus Carnage? Caspar? I'm not sure. Anyway, Ares still just sending some units around, keeping that hunt well and truly denied. Warlock having to send some units up in response and try and take a fairly safe town centre. Ares, on the other hand, he hasn't actually got a town centre yet. He must have... Yeah, must have cut stone. Ares must have cut stone to try and take the fight, and then he's gone back on stone, so... He's really just started gathering it again. And he's got his dock out, he's got a couple of fishing boats on the way, which is nice for him. Warlock, he's got this town centre on the way. So, I think both players are fairly even in terms of their macro at the moment. If Warlock gets on the dock and Ares gets on a town centre, I think we're going to be pretty much dead even. But Ares is doing a good job at trying to secure the waterline, try and see if he can take anything. Here we go, he's got a real nice catch here. He just has to not lose this Priestess, but Warlock's doing a good job to come in here. Take all of his villagers out, force the Priestess to the back of the fight again. He's got some double archery range going down. Ares still hasn't quite yet thrown up that town centre because he's just been forcing out even more fishing boats. Really, you should probably look at cancelling those and try and force out that quicker TC. Because there's no point having multiple units queued if you can spend the resources elsewhere a lot of the time. It's not the best of trades, I don't think, because it's just as the second TC's come up, so he's going to lose way too much to this, I think. He's going to lose a couple more spears, a couple of axemen. He's got the healing here for the rest of them, but it's going to be quite tough for him to actually wedge in his way into there and get anything out of this. In saying that though, he's got the water, and that gives him a nice eco advantage for the time being until Warlock can really spit out enough villages to make up the difference. So Warlock is actually up by 2 villages, but considering that Ares has the three fishing boats, that effectively counts for 3 extra villages on top of that. So that more or less swings things slightly back in his favour at this stage. So Warlock's production queue seems to be a lot more full on at the moment. This risky house here, this risky barracks here, it's outside of TC range, so as long as Ares doesn't get dragged back up, he can possibly take this off his opponent right now. Warlock doing a good job to try and stay micro behind, try and pull his opponent up into the TC as best as he can, and Ares being around that side might not be such a good idea. Being wrapped around this side would probably be a lot better, because then he can pull the bows out a little bit more dangerously as well. So, this is actually a good fight for Ares, considering he's got a little bit of a unit advantage. All these axemen are really doing a lot of work to kill all the spears coming out from Warlock. And he manages to snipe the barracks and back off, so he's opted for a second dock. He's opening really greedy now behind this. He's got the TC and the second dock. While Warlock is just queuing up a lot of villages and a couple of units. And in terms of the population, we're looking at 42 v 35. But I think a lot more of that's actually in production. So I don't really think there is much in the way of a villager disparity. It's just that more of it was queued. Oh no, here we go. It is actually, yeah, take that back. A lot of those villages have already popped out for Warlock now, so he's cancelled the others. So yeah, he's actually managed to macro a fair bit nicer behind this. Ares, for all of his really nice pressure game there, I think Ares has not macroed up enough behind this as well as he could have. He's probably invested more into the axemen than into his villagers, so for all that pressure he's put on, he hasn't got an awful lot out of it other than managing to secure a second dock, and Warlock has no idea about either. So that's really been the only, or well, I guess the main accomplishment of Ares' early pressure, heading into sort of the age 3 or the late age 2 pushes. And yeah, he is going to get age 3 out of this, I suppose. Warlock doesn't have it queued up at all, and he hasn't actually even got resourcefulness, which is quite a strong tech on Babylonian, because it lets you sit on your berries longer, lets you sit on your wood lines longer, lets you gather a little bit quicker overall. So it's a very nice tech to have, even though it is quite expensive to try and front load. And for now, Ares is actually moving out with 4 camels. Warlock's got quite a big force here, so he's going to try and hit Ares, I think. Now, Warlock doesn't have any idea yet about the dock and about this raid incoming, so it's been quite interesting to see how he responds and what Ares actually does here as well. So let's go back to everyone. They're just sitting there for the time being. That's been denied. Warlock's going to find out about this, and he might find out about the second just yet, so all the ships forced to pull back for the time being. Dock's going to fall for Ares. Quite a big force of Warlocks, but Ares is going to get all the scouting information he needs to know how to counter this as well. So sometimes losing a building or something like that, or a couple of units, it's not as big as it might seem. And he still has that first dock, so if he builds another one down here even, he might even be better off, because Warlock, he has not scouted it, so he thinks that basically Ares has just got all this dead population in the water, when in actual fact he's basically got three or four hunts worth of food incoming, so be quite strong for Ares in the long run. There's a trireme coming out just to try and deny the water as well, and maybe even catch him here. No, I don't think he's going to. But he needs to be careful to not let Warlock realise that he's actually got another dock on the water, because if he takes that, then all of a sudden the advantage that I was talking about, that all goes out the window. So right now we've got 65 worker pop for Warlock, 57 for Ares, but with a ship count of 9, that actually trades in favour of Ares. There's no actual market come out yet from either player yet, I believe. We've got the H3 from Ares, whereas H2 from Warlock, and the third TC being put down. Things are looking very good for Ares, but does he have enough at home to defend? He's got quite a small force, I think. And being right on the TC, what's he going to do here? Is he just going to let it fall? Oh no, he's moving in now. He's got the last couple of units building up, and he's moving in. Making Warlock overcommit a little bit, and then take out what he can. Be careful not to overextend here. Well, both players really do, I think. So, an awful lot being gathered here for Warlock, but he needs to look at moving it elsewhere around the map, because he's going to start running out of food soon around his side of the map. There's only these berries, and these berries, and then a couple of hunts scattered here and there. So, Ares in the meantime, down here, he's got a big water economy, got those 9 ships. He's starting to get net lures as well, which is also going to help. Chariot archers is going to really help. Ooh, that's not so good, but at least he knows where the army is. So, it would be nice to save those, but at the same time, if there's any number of units he's going to be throwing away this early to give him scouting information, I think those would be the ones. So, he's got this big force down here. Warlock's got a big one up here. We're going to see a nice engagement just as Warlock hits age 3. There's not much else in Warlock's actual queue at the moment. I think he was a supply cap going into that fight. So, got a nice fight here from Ares, who's sort of situated well between his 2 town centers behind some houses, which makes it quite hard for Warlock to get in there. But he's going to start taking houses on the peripheral as well, which is going to make it harder for Ares to actually remax. And he's going to start losing some villages too. So that was a good fight for Ares, but did it cost him too much economically? It did cost him a couple of villages. At the same time, it costed Warlock a lot more in terms of his fight. So Ares still unanswered on the water at this stage. He's got 10 fishing ships. He's ramping up. He's going to get straight up to 12. He's going to get the watchtower up here. I think Ares has got the map control in this game, to be honest. As much as Warlock's been pushing over his side of the map, because he's got the water that Warlock seems to be unaware about. I think things in the long run might shift towards Ares' favour. Just have to see how we go with this one though, because both players are really good army control. It's really back and forth this game. I mean this series. Ares won the opener. Warlock's won the second. It looks like Ares is ahead in the third, but it's not. It's definitely not over it, guys. It's certainly a 1-to-1 series, game 3 for sure. And we've got Warlock losing a couple of units here, but it's a couple of stone miners. Probably not the hugest loss for him. He's got plenty of stone in the bank at this stage. He's going to send his army across and hopefully be able to mop this up quite quickly. Meanwhile, Ares is looking at creeping forward slowly, get some more resources out of the map. Hasn't actually finished off this watchtower at all. More production facilities going down for Warlock. He has to do something about these camel riders that are running through his base and these chariot archers. And his army of predominantly infantry and ranged. Well, pretty much entirely infantry and ranged. I don't really think there's anything in the way of the stables at the moment. Yeah, no, there's not a stables at all out still yet from Warlock. So he's just chasing his opponent around the map. Warlock really needs to look at teching up to getting some stables here. He's got the faster market than his opponent, but that's not going to mean anything if your opponent can just raid it all day. Got a bigger army. He's got, I think, a bigger army, but again, just really nice pressure from Ares, just taking advantage of the fact that his opponent doesn't have the cavalry to catch him. And he's just further securing the water, more fishing ships, getting more upgrades. He needs to be careful to not lose these chariot archers. He's forced walling out from his opponent as well, so as much as Warlock's going to be much safer on this side, it's an investment that he made that he otherwise wouldn't have had to have. So Ares is doing a good job of keeping his opponent busy, but Warlock is also doing a good job of segmenting his side of the map and making sure that he's well and truly safe. So neither player willing to throw this game away. They're just macroing up, taking very smart field positions here. Wonder if we're going to see some water play from Warlock at some point, or if Ares is just going to have completely uncontested control of the water for the rest of the game. So we've got a big fight here in the middle, and a whole bunch of range on Warlock's side, getting a couple of free hits off, and then Warlock pinching having a Spearman pinch by Ares in the end. Fortress coming out from Ares. Wanted to creep up further and further towards his opponent. You really don't want to get trapped up your end of the map. This double walling from Warlock, that's really nice to see. Ares, on the other hand, he's playing a bit riskily, bit YOLO. He doesn't give a damn, man. He's just YOLO. And here he's pulling down to the water because he knows he can try and make use of the try as well. And maybe even the fishing ship if he really wants to. So this is a nice sort of fight for Ares to take, I think. Even though I think Warlock's got the advantage in the fight, the fact that he can make use of the trireme is going to help as well. And it's a good little concave from both players. Both quite spread armies, but Ares just doesn't seem to have enough. The chariot archers are just falling. This massive bowman seem to really be putting in the work, and the bearers are just eating a lot of the shots. So he's dealing a lot of damage to Ares' villagers here. He's going to pick this trireme off possibly. Just careful. So Warlock forcing Ares back off the gold. Ares being forced back to the mid-gold near his fortress. Then he doesn't have the ship to help. It's really nice use of his army, keeping his opponent busy down his end of the map. He knows exactly what Ares is looking to do. He's seen that he's still occupied on the water. And now he's going to move in on this other gold mine, but being the fortress there, this might not be so easy to take. He's still got that max advantage, whereas Ares is still just maxing up now. So he needs to make something happen fast, but if he can, I think he might be able to break Ares here. It's another fortress behind this, and it looks like there's a storehouse going up. Try and get even more to defend with. Warlock's got to be careful here. Pull out a little bit quicker, and he can save everything. So here we go. Warlock's got everything out, losing only a small number of units. He's still pretty much at max, which is really, really good play from him. Ares is just getting up to max now, which is good, but considering that he's the one defending, he's still chasing his tail. The elephants, they're going to be quite nice. The 3 elephants are going to be really hard for Warlock to try and deal with. He's going to have to split up his army immensely. End this raid coming from Ares as well. He's going to find these walls and start chipping through them, try and force his opponent back to deal with them. There's a wall upgrade coming from Warlock. Might be a little bit too little too late, but he also might be able to catch his opponent. Oh, they've kicked in just in time, so might actually catch everything here. Yeah, he's going to catch a lot of this force. But there's still going to be another 5 that sneak through, so he really needs to be careful not to get caught here. He's finishing off the walling. He sent some lancers through to finish off the camels. That's a good number of lancers for that camels. He's not really overcommitting, but he's going to be able to get them all down in time. And only lose 1 or 2 caravans in the process, which is not a bad trade for Warlock at this stage, I think. Although he probably needs to look at doing something to get the water, like I've been saying. He's hit age 3 now, so age 4 now, so he's 99 villages versus Ares 86. But Ares just has so many ships. He's even got a dock all the way down here, so Ares and Warlock transitioning into the late game quite well here. Ares even getting the net weights tech to further his advantage on the water. Warlock is pretty much completely maxed out. He just needs to throw down this 4th TC when he can get it, and he needs to rocket up to 200 pops. So Ares still in the age 3. He really needs to look at aging. He's got the resources to do so, or just about. Maybe he's just waiting on the food now. Oh, he's got price adjusting. So maybe he's waiting for that to kick in. But he can't dally too long because Warlock's 4th TC is up now. So Warlock's got the 20 pop advantage. So Ares can't hang on. Can't dally too much longer now. Otherwise, all that siege is going to be out. All his upgrades from age 4 are going to be finished. And Warlock's going to have an advantage. So be a bit careful with this trireme. Sort of losing it there. And all the towers coming up at once to deny Ares' force is just sort of chipping away at the walls at the moment. And they're forced to have to scatter back, I think. So he's managed to sneak one elephant through somehow. Ares has hit age 4. He's queued up a whole bunch of units again. He's going to look at having to get down that 4th TC when he can. Get some siege workshops down as well. Surprised he hasn't actually opted to go for here because there's a lot of gold over there. There's always 2 gold and 2 stone, and that's a lot of resources at the end of the day. Whoever controls the mini island come late game is the person that wins the game. Although there might be a gold over here that neither player has scouted. I wouldn't be surprised. We see a big force come in from Warlock, and pretty much at the max range he's hitting this fortress already, and it's doing a lot of damage. Got all 3 Palantonons there hitting it, and now he can hit the army as well with plenty of room to spare. Slowly chipping away at things, denying vision for Ares, so Warlock in a really nice position here. Ares, what have you done? What have you done, Ares? Ares has a really aggressive dock position here just to get what last food he can out of the water. Probably trying to anticipate a really big age 4 fight from him. Desert conditioning on the way, but he needs to also get that 4th town center down. He is. Until that's up, he's at a 20 pop disadvantage, so he really needs to hold on. And while Warlock is moving in for the kill. Well, he's got these 3 Palantonons set up, and he's going to be able to take out that catapult straight away. Now, this is going to start hurting now, because these will be able to rain damage on all of Ares' buildings, or his massed up unit comp. This is really nice push from Warlock here. It's also going to deny this dock without having to waste any units to do so, which is always good. You really, if you can avoid throwing away population to do something, great. So we've got some more production facilities going down. Warlock in a really nice position here in the middle of Ares' base. Ares just scrounging for field position. He doesn't really know how he can best engage here. He's a little bit down. He's about 25 supply down. I think he realizes he's also might be a little bit behind in terms of the bank and the upgrades. So Warlock's doing what he can to hem him in, keep him down here, and take advantage of all the pressure that he's got, because he knows that he's really run out of food on his side of the map. And basically, Ares with the water control, if Warlock doesn't get something now, I think things could go back Ares' way. But looks like Warlock's doing everything he needs to do. He's sniped a TC. He's managed to kill most of Ares' army. He's down about 40 supplies. So Ares, for all of his good macro and field position in the early game, is really starting to struggle right now. Warlock has nothing in queue because he's already maxed out, got most of the upgrades that he needs. Ares, on the other hand, has got 40 supply in queue or something like that. Like, it's just, there's stacks coming onto the field for Ares, but is it even enough? Warlock has his 200. Ares, he's at 150 out of 180 and he's falling. And all these houses are going to start going down. Production facilities are going down left, right, and center. I don't know if Ares has got it left in him. He's moving some stuff up to try and take this gold mine, but really, man, it's becoming quite drastic. Warlock's force is relatively unanswered here in the middle. There's GG. What a series, guys. That was amazing to cast. That was great fun. Really nice final push there from Warlock. Really nice. And I was really expecting things to go the other way with Ares with his water. Really good water control from Ares in the beginning, and taking that cheesy little, I wouldn't say cheesy even, that expanding up to that second dock saved his first. And I really thought that with that those 10 fishing ships, he might get it. They might get him across the line, but boy, Warlock's taking some really, really good fights at the moment, guys, and it's great fun watching both players. Yeah, we can see Ares even building up a sizable lead about the 22-23 minute mark, so man, it's been a real good game. Good fun to cast, good fun to watch. Warlock leading in population on his villages for most of the game, but let's not forget, most of the game Ares had a huge number of fishing ships over Warlock, so really even game, really good to watch. I can't wait to see these guys face each other again one day. And guys, I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank all the players who took a part today. It's been good fun. Real good fun with Greeky and Spaniard helping cast today. Had Warlock, Casper, and Carnage all step up for ringing games. So yeah, guys, cheers for watching. I better get to bed. It's 6 AM here. Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll have something going for next Saturday.